Thank you for your patience. I'd like to call the meeting of the TUSD Governing Board to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Romero?
Here.
Dr. Ravi?
Here.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Here.
Ms. Shaw?
Here.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Here. And I do want the audience to know that we do have interpretation services available. Next, we'll move on to our land acknowledgement statement. And our student is on Zoom. She will be doing the land acknowledgement and the Pledge of Allegiance. So this is Lillian Celaya Hall. She is a student at Borden Elementary Magnet School. Lily is in the 5th grade. She is in her 3rd year at Borden. Lily enjoys playing soccer, riding horses, making jewelry, and helping animals. She participates in yearbook club at Borden and is looking forward to 6th grade at Dodge Traditional Middle School. So, Lillian, congratulations on being at Borden and then moving on to Dodge. We're so happy to have you in this district. If you want to start with the land acknowledgement, go right ahead.
On behalf of the governing board of the Tucson Unified School District, I, Lillian Celaya Hall, acknowledge that the schools, buildings, and facilities of the Tucson Unified School District reside on the ancestral homeland of the Tohono O'odham Nation and the federally recognized tribal lands of the Pasquayaqui tribe.
Thank you, Lillian. And if we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and you can go ahead and start when you're ready.
Okay. Please take off your hats and hoodies and place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Lily. Have a wonderful summer.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to agenda adjustments. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, President Extra, members of the governing board, we have 4 agenda adjustments, a couple of appointments we'd like to move up, and of course all of these to follow directly following the conclusion of the call to the audience. So after call to the audience, we'd like the 2 appointments, 7.1 and 7.2. And then we would like immediately following 7.1 and 7.2, item 8.1, and then item 9.1, as we do have a guest for 9.1.
Okay. Next is board member activity reports. Governing board members, who would like to go first? Ms. Luna Rose.
Thank you, Ms. Ekstrom. And good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us, especially on kind of the first week of summer vacation. So appreciate you all being here. As we wrapped up the month of May, I had a few things. So I will quickly. First, I attended the Legacy of Excellence dinner, which, if you're not familiar, is a great event that gives out raises money and gives out scholarships to our African American students. It's such a wonderful event, and every year, and I'd like to thank Jeff Sawyer and Miss Natalie Clark for their hard work on this fabulous event. I then attended the John B. Wright Career Day and gave out little prizes and did they had to answer questions correctly to see if they listened to me about how exciting it is to be a TUSD governing board member. So thanks to Miss Brenda Cenas, principal there, for inviting me for the 2nd year in a row. Also attended the Employee Benefits Trust meeting, which goes over exactly what is our benefits for employees, and look forward to the next meeting soon. I also met, thank you, with TEA and Jim Byrne, and I see a lot of you in the red, invited Jennifer, a few of us, Ms. Extra May, to come to a town hall concerning the override, so thank you for inviting us. I also met with Ms. Lindsay Aguilar of our food services, along with Children's Action Alliance. They're concerned, Children's Action Alliance, with what's going on federally and how they can perhaps help the district with perhaps grants and any changes to the National School Lunch Program. I took a tour of the Multicultural Curriculum Department, so thank you to Dr. Rosalinda Rodriguez, who, if you have not met with her or not taken a tour with her, she likes to give out treats and prizes and little gifts, and really showcase what they're doing in our district. And if you're a teacher and haven't had a chance to use that resource, I highly recommend you do so. I was very impressed with what her and her team are doing. I also attended the Metropolitan Education Commission dinner. Thank you to Rocky Perez and the board for the invitation. We had some student awards, including students from Pueblo for all their work that they've done in their schools and concerning peer counseling and the like, and also congratulations to Dr. Trujillo, who also won an award for superintendent. Attended the African American Student Services recognition at the U of A. Thank you, Dr. Tanya Strozer. That's always also a really fun time, and to see the families get very excited for their child to graduate. And I'll be running into also, I attended graduation ceremony at TAP and Santa Rita. So thank you to Mr. Macias Reyes and Ms. Ray for inviting me to that. Graduation is, even though my child is not graduating yet, you can get kind of emotional when you're walking and seeing all these parents and everybody getting really excited. I kind of get choked up a little bit. I don't know if anybody else does, but I do, because it's a big deal, and a lot of these kids have worked really hard to get to where they're going. It's exciting to see where they're heading next. So I'll let my colleagues speak about their times at graduation. And then as a parent, I attended the Band Awards night at Rincon UHS, as well as Arts Under the Stars. Arts Under the Stars is such a fun activity they started doing a couple years ago. All the arts departments has exactly what it sounds. Art Under the Stars, one night. Every department's got something that they're doing at the same time. There's little drama shorts. There's the band, there's the orchestra, there's the jazz, there's choir, all the art that has been worked on throughout the year. There's a big art exhibition. It's a fun night. And lots of food trucks, so nobody gets hungry. Wanted to thank both Ms. Welch from Rincon and Mr. Rangel from UHS for always putting on a wonderful event for the families. And lastly, I'd like to thank all the parents and staff who have reached out in the last couple of weeks. I know that it's been a whirlwind with the end of school, but I know there's a lot of issues that you're all concerned about, and I really appreciate you reaching out. I know sometimes don't always have the time to, or can, depending on the open meeting law, to reach back, but I am here and I am listening, and my door is always open, so thank you.
Dr. Shaw.
All right, thank you, President Ekstrom, and thanks everyone for being here this evening, those in person and in the audience. Busy month like all of my colleagues as we get towards the end of the school year, things really pick up. I did make one visit to one of our schools unrelated to graduation. I had a chance to visit Ross Scrooge K-8. Thank you, Principal Carranza, for the tour, as well as assistant principals and others. And that school was a great way to see our dual language K-8 in action. It was my first time visiting that school, so I had a great tour and great introduction to the community there. And preceding that, I had a chance to join the Department of Language Acquisition, and thank you to Pat Sandoval for introducing me to staff and all the different roles and work that we're doing to ensure both dual language, as well as a lot of the other language acquisition issues for our English language learners and others are being met throughout our district. One of the fun events I got to go to, kind of a surprise I'd never been to, was Make Fashion EDU, where we had about 6 elementary schools that came together one Saturday evening to have these really interesting like fashion design with themes of nature or sports or something else. And so we had like over 100 students and their parents there at that event. So it was great to kind of see the creativity of our students throughout our district. Had a chance to attend also the Metropolitan Education Commission gala event, as well as the African American Student Services student recognitions. And thank you again to Dr. Tanya Strozier for their invitation. With my colleague, Board President Ekstrom, we had a chance to meet with AFSCME. Thank you to Brian, as well as Chair William Keck for the invitation to join that group. And we got to hear from a number of our AFSCME members on things that are going well and the challenges that they're having with their district. And the graduation I attended was Saguaro High School's graduation. And the thing I love the most is like shaking the hands of like hundreds of students as they walk across the stage. And yes, I do have my sanitizer ready at the end. But I just love, you know, some of them are making like firm eye contact with me and like are just gonna, yes, thank you. And others are kind of just trying to run by and not, you know, deal with any of us. And Dr. Hewitt, who was next to me, one of our assistant superintendents, will testify to the fact that I stopped almost every single one of them and like, here, give me your right hand, let's shake this right, and got them going for the rest of the line. So I love just shaking everyone's hands with a quick note of congratulations as they get their diploma. So I really appreciate attending the graduations when I can. A few other quick things. Had a chance to meet with Don Bell from our EEF, the Education Enrichment Foundation. If you don't know EEF, that is a nonprofit that you can do your tax credit money to that supports our students here in TUSD directly. So Don Bell is a great ally of our work in TUSD and a really important organization that supports our 40,000 students, especially those that are low income. And also met with a council member, Nikki Lee, out in our southeast part of TUSD to talk about some exciting things happening in her piece of the of Tucson City Council that touches TUSD. And then my final is a shout out to Alice Vale. I had a chance to go there twice for my daughter's band and orchestra performances. She's in both. I see some of her former music teachers in the audience here. So thank you for everything you've done for my daughter, and great work, seeing all of the students performing both in band and orchestra, which 2 years ago I had no clue what the difference was between a band and orchestra. I still get it wrong on purpose every single time just to annoy my daughter. So I'm doing to get my dad points that way. That's my activity report.
Mr. Romero, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you, Madam President, and good evening, everyone. I also attended the African American Student Services Department Student Recognition Ceremony. My daughter was, she received an award, as did two of our cousins and so many other students. It was great to be there and to celebrate all the great work happening in the department and across our district with the students. And then, yeah, Dr. Shaw is right when he says that he really does force the kids to shake their hand. He'll grab their hand with his right hand, and then he'll grab their arm with his left. Because, yeah, some students do hesitate to, look you in the eye and all of that. So it was interesting to be by his side. Let's see. I attended Alice Vale's 8th grade promotion. My goddaughter, Ishto Robles, was graduating from there, and she's going into Tucson High, so it's nice to celebrate her and all the other students at Alice Vale. I also attended Dodge's end of the year orchestra and band performance. And the graduation at Tuva was fabulous. Mr. Armenta and I were there, and there were so many students who were parents, and they had their children with them, and brought them on stage. There was a young child who had his own graduation cap and gown. So it's just fabulous that we have this education, online education that gives students the ability to continue on with their education when they do become parents. So we have two options, TAP and TUVA for those students. I also attended the graduation ceremony at Palo Verde. That was really interesting. Mr. Brock, the principal, got his staff together, and they did a rap performance for their students before we went out for the rest of the ceremony. They did Well, they redid one of Snoop Dogg's songs to make it more like Palo Verde related, so it was really interesting, and I will not share the video, but I want to. Let's see. I was going to be at the Legacy of Excellence gala, but unfortunately my daughter got sick, and so I had to forego that. So my apologies, but thank you to all the good work of Mr. Sawyer and everyone on that board, and congratulations to all the students who received that scholarship. I also checked out the Tucson High School's football program. I was invited by Mr. Ed Birdman to see what it was like to, be on that football team. He wanted me to see like the conditions of their students. And I was told by, the Badger Foundation of the need for the football program over there to have new equipment. And when I got there, I saw that, yeah, they are in dire need of more equipment, not just Tucson High. I think it's all of our high school football teams and, even the other sports programs. And so I'm hoping that perhaps the bond committee might explore purchasing more equipment for all of our football programs. Since it's such a high contact sport, we need to make sure that our students have the most safe equipment that's up to date, that's the highest quality, so that it protects them. And that's it for me. Thank you.
All right, so April ended with dual-in with Principal Neffley and AP Michelle. Started May with Principal Marticella at Ruskridge, Principal Eva at Hudlow, Principal Brian at Borman. Hosted a Principal Appreciation Party the Friday after Principal Appreciation Day. Went to Robert Snail for strategics training and experienced the great haboob of Robert Snailard, sponsored by Principal Bernadette, and she's in the audience right there. Thank you for that experience. We'll never forget it. Visit with Principal Debbie at Seacrest for the grand opening of their Vills Lab with local support from Saguaro Canyon Church and Walmart off of Houghton. Also, happy birthday to Debbie. Principal Brenda at Dodge Middle School. Visit with Emily Walls at Lineweaver. Aloha and mahalo to Dr. Camille for Tucson High's ex-ed graduation. I believe that was the first ever one that we did for our Tucson High students there. We had 3 graduates there. I was there with Frank Armenta and Dr. Sabrina Salmon. Thank you very much for letting me be part of that. I hope we can continue with that on for years to come. Meeting with Principal Kyle at Oyama and enjoying a preschool promotion over there. Met with Tammy Ray at Santa Rita. Meeting with Principal Donovan at Booth Fickett. Wanted to thank Greg and his team and facilities for making things happen there in the library. Also extremely appreciative of your department's work. I also got to see Speedy again from landscaping in action. Met with Miss O at Gale. Kathy O recently lost her mom after 90 years on this planet. I would like to respect her and Kathy's family with a quick prayer for those that would like to share this moment. Aloha, Father, please send love and guidance to Kathy and her family. They knew this was inevitable, but it was always difficult to have this experience. Please comfort their family. Amen. Met with Principal Rosanna at Gridley, met with Principal Lisa Lanford at Collier, met with Principal Kevin at Sabino, met with Bryant Modine at Lyons to do a last walkthrough, and also find out about a potential lease. As I was a student there in 1976 and 1977, the place looks a little bit smaller and it was a lot more greener when I went. Went to Miller. We had a scheduling hiccup, but I'll be back this summer to complete a visit. Met with Principal Robbie at Maldonado. Met with Principal Jill at Warren. Met with Principal Zuelma at Lawrence. Also took a car ride to visit the community of New Pascua. Met with AP Danielle at Pister for a school visit and tour. Was honored to be with Principal Judy at Mary Meredith's graduation. Also again with Dr. Sabrina Salmon. Met with the staff at Safford K-8 to be speaker of their 8th grade promotion. Thank you, Principal Katie. Visit to McCorkle Academy of Excellence during the end of year celebration and also speaker for their 8th grade promotion. Got to meet Mary Bell McCorkle. Special thanks also to Principal Deanna and AP's Amy and Rodzilla. Phenomenal promotion. graduation with Ms. Consack and speaker at the Tucson High graduation, visit with Principal Bill at Banks, Principal Jeff at VC. I was also able to read multiple classes, and now I know where cupcakes come from. Visit with Shekenya at Holiday, met with Principal Carol at Cavett, graduation at Innovation Tech, personal celebration with the youth from my church that was graduating. Thank you, Principal Patricia. Last visit for the school year was Bobby at Saguaro, and since my election to the board in November 2028, I have been to all 88 TUSD schools at least twice, Camp Cooper twice, Dave Blunts. I have been to 23 schools 3 times, 10 schools 4 times, and 2 schools 5 times, and that's Safford and Rincon are my top 2. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Well, I had a very light May. I injured my foot, so I was unable to walk for quite some time. So I did not make it to any graduations, which I am very sad to report. But I was able to, before I hurt my foot, attend a tour at McGee Middle School. Thank you to Principal Muick for the tour. We saw the dual language programs and some GATE programs out there. It's such a nice campus. If you are out on the east side, I would suggest touring McGee to send your child. I also attended the Bond Oversight Committee. I also met with TEA, AFSCME, and I attended Lineweaver's Honor Recorder and 4th grade violin celebrations. And that concludes my board member activity report. Dr. Trujillo, I'm so sorry. I forgot to do awards and recognition, so we'll go back to that.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to celebrate student and staff excellence. And tonight, we begin our final governing board meeting in May with a celebration of academic excellence at Roberts Naylor K-8. We celebrate them as an inspiring example of what can be achieved when a school community unites with purpose and passion. Roberts Naylor serves a dynamic and diverse population that not only is diverse in its ethnicity, but also diverse academically. It houses one of our largest gifted and talented populations, while simultaneously housing one of our largest ex-ed populations, with also a very large English language learner population. So they do a tremendous job there. Layer in a 60% student mobility rate and a lot of new to Tucson and new to the United States refugees, and you have a hustling, bustling, diverse learning environment there that thrives under the leadership of its principal and staff. This past school year, the school achieved some remarkable academic growth. One of the immediate bright spots on the recently released AASA results that we've literally just got about a day and a half ago that are still embargoed. But we can share that at Roberts Naylor, we saw some remarkable academic growth. 3rd grade English language arts proficiency rose from just 15% 3 years ago in 2022 to now 42%, now eclipsing the state average. So that's wonderful. Even more striking is the work done with our students that are the most struggling, students that are off grade level by several grade levels with reading. Roberts Naylor, in addition to increasing its proficiency, they reduced the amount of students scoring in the lowest proficiency level from 70% 3 years ago in 2022 down to 48%. So not only making tremendous gains with our students achieving grade level proficiency, but on the lower end with students that are significantly off grade level, dramatically reducing the amount of students in the school that are scoring at the bottom level of proficiency. This is a powerful indication of meaningful and sustained progress and leadership. Under the leadership of Principal Bernadette Rossenhauser Espinosa, the school has created an amazing environment that ensures that every single child and young person receives what they need to thrive. Roberts Naylor shows us what is possible when leadership is strong, when educators are united and families are engaged. So on behalf of the Tucson Unified School District, we want to congratulate the staff, students, and families of Roberts Naylor K-8. We're extremely proud of this wonderful achievement. And with that, I'd like to call its proud principal up and award her the Superintendent's Award for Excellence for Roberts Naylor and their academic performance. So Mrs. R, as she's effectively known, go ahead and come on up. this wasn't coordinated in any way. We actually have her brother to be recognized next, who happens to be the principal of an amazing high school called Pueblo. And we want to recognize Pueblo for its standout performance with regard to students passing the technical skills assessments for mastery and CTE programs. I think everybody knows career and technical education programs. Everybody knows how popular those programs are with our students. But I think what people don't know is the amount of students that never actually pass and earn the certification, which is the power of CTE, is to get certified in a particular trade or a particular area and go directly into the workforce. And that is where Pueblo shines, not only with the sheer amount of students that take CTE courses, but also with the amount of students that actually earn certification and earn a passing score on the technical skills assessment. So this year, there out of 202 students taking the technical assessments, 175 earned passing scores with an incredible district-leading 87% pass rate. This is Pueblo's highest to date, and it's just 3 points shy of the 90% state record. So this truly stands out. But there is some excellence behind the numbers, and we always like to recognize our student excellence. So students passing at 100%, we had Mayala Bernal for early childhood education and their program out there, Kendra Lynch for home health care, and we had Dr. Maria Bicknell, the marketing instructor, over there as well. These teachers were remarkable in guiding their students to technical skills proficiency at the highest level. And not to be outdone, you had 2 additional teachers who guided their students in their program to 95% pass rates. And that's Nate Adams in computer science and Eric Lemkel, the bioscience teacher out there at Pueblo High School. These educators are more than instructors. They're mentors, they're role models, they're champions of student success. And to our Pueblo CTE teachers, thank you for preparing our students for futures filled with opportunity. Your work is transformational. We're proud of everything that you do. So I would like to call up our Pueblo High School CTE team so that they can receive their Superintendent's Award for Excellence, if they're here this evening. I think we've got Mr. R will be up here receiving on behalf. Come on up, Mr. R. This is Frank Rossenhauser, and yes, he is of relation to our Roberts Naylor principal. So congratulations, Mr. R.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, great work on CTE. Tonight, we also recognize a group of student leaders who represent the heart of our district with their passion for advocacy and commitment to community. So join me in celebrating the Mexican American Student Advisory Council. This dedicated council brings together students from across the district to build skills in leadership, civic engagement, and collective problem solving. One member, Emiliano Caldera, a junior at Catalina High School, described how the council strengthened his collaboration and leadership skills, all while balancing cross-country, dual enrollment, and his JTED courses. We also celebrate 2 graduating seniors whose leadership has set a powerful example for those who follow. Mariana Martinez from Pueblo High School and Desiree Martinez from University High School. We congratulate them. To all members of the Student Advisory Council, thank you for shaping the future of our district. With deep gratitude, we present you with the Superintendent's Award of Excellence. So thank you very, very much. Go ahead and come on up. We can bring our sponsor up as well. Let's have our sponsor up here as well, and our Director for Mexican American Student Services, Maria Federico Brummer. Welcome. And next, we celebrate a gifted young artist whose creative vision and cultural pride have brought distinction to both his school and our school district. So Choya's own Eric Andres Alvarez, although he couldn't join us this evening, we really wanted to recognize his achievement. So we will be presenting him with the Superintendent's Award to Excellence, as this graduating senior from Choya High School was the winner of this year's Congressional Art Competition for Arizona's 7th District. Eric's piece, titled "Who Am I?" will be displayed in the tunnel connecting the congressional offices to the U.S. Capitol, seen daily by members of Congress and visitors from around the world. His art features the colors of his tribal flag and speaks to the identity and history of the Pascuayaqui tribe. What makes his recognition even more meaningful is that it does come from the office of the late Congressman Raul Grijalva, whose passion for education continues to inspire our work today. Eric will attend the national reception in Washington, D.C., thanks to the support of Congressman Grijalva's office. In addition, the University of Arizona has awarded Eric scholarship funds in recognition of his broader artistic achievements. Although he is not with us this evening, let us give a round of applause for this gifted and talented young artist. Our next award goes to an educator whose commitment to arts education has advanced not only student learning, but the field itself. I had an opportunity to run into him doing his thing out at Warren when I visited the school for its 50th anniversary celebration a few weeks back. You could just see the passion in that work with young people out there. But his commitment to arts education is truly, truly a gift to the students of Warren in the Tucson Unified School District. Joshua was recently selected to present at the National Association for Music Education's National Research Conference, a prestigious honor that reflects the strength of his work. In partnership with TUSD's Fine Arts and Exceptional Education departments and the University of Arizona School of Music, he developed a curriculum exploring the impact of music education on students with intellectual and emotional disabilities. His work focused on rhythmic integrity, improvisation, creativity, and participation, and has led to measurable gains in student engagement, interaction, and learning outcomes. Joshua's efforts demonstrate the very heart of the Opening Minds Through the Arts mission and vision, and remind us of the power of creativity to break barriers. Thank you, Joshua, and thank you to Warren Elementary Principal Jill Ronsman for your support of this absolutely amazing work. It is truly our privilege to have such an amazing educator and champion for the arts, unlocking the power of the arts for some of our most vulnerable students. That is a very, very special gift that you give to this district every single day. So Joshua, we'd like to award you with the Superintendent's Award for Excellence. Thank you very, very much. In our final recognition this evening, we turn to a vital community partnership, one that directly supports one of our district's most fundamental responsibilities, safety. So it's my honor to present the Superintendent's Award of Excellence to the Pima County Southwest Regional Park, represented tonight by Range Operation Manager Alan Baker. They make the park available to our school safety team to make sure that our team is well-trained and safe and ready to handle all of their equipment and ready to serve our schools in a moment's notice. And they do so with no additional charges, but only in the mission of supporting the work of school safety. So I'd like to present the Superintendent's Award for Excellence and Appreciation for that partnership and that resource made available for our school safety team. So we can have Southwest Regional Park Shooting Range representatives up this evening. We'd love to shake your hand and thank you for the partnership. Thank you. President Extra, members of the governing board, that concludes awards and recognitions.
Thank you, Dr. Trillo. Next is call to the audience, and I will turn that over to Dr. Shaw.
All right, thank you, President Extra. Members of the public may speak during the call to the audience. The governing board clerk shall be responsible for recognizing speakers and for maintaining order where it may be appropriate. Those who speak in person or want to have their comments read shall email or call the board office or complete a request to address the board form before the meeting. Speakers who have not completed a request form are not permitted to address the board. The speaker must state their full name and topic prior to addressing the board. Speakers are encouraged to be brief with a maximum time of 3 minutes. While more than one speaker may speak together in the time allowed, speakers are reminded that they are not allowed to speak more than once, and they may not transfer or delegate their time to others. If there are documents for the board, please give them to the board office staff, and they will ensure each board member receives a copy. Those attending the meeting and or speaking before the board shall observe rules of good conduct. Speakers shall also refrain from inappropriate or slanderous remarks. And because TUSD serves students from preschool through high school, speakers should be aware there may be children present and listening. At the end of the call to the audience, the governing board president will ask if any board member wishes to respond to criticism, wish to ask staff to review a matter, or wish to ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. No more than 2 members may address each topic. Contents of this card are public information. So this evening we have 16 in-person calls to the audience and 4 to be read. We'll start with the in-person with Lauren Rios, followed by Paisley Goffney and Finley Parsons. So starting with Lauren Rios.
And respect that makes a school community strong. I am not asking for special treatment, but I am asking for equal treatment, for fairness, and for the policies that apply to us to also apply to everyone else. We believe in collaboration with administrators, not conflict, but collaboration only works when everyone at the table is committed to transparency, accountability, and respect, especially those in positions of authority. So today, I urge you to please hear me and hear the concerns that are not only of the student council, but of the students who feel silenced or overlooked, because we deserve a school that lives up to its own values. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rios. And before the next speaker, do we have the timer? Okay. Great. Can we make it bigger, please? And the next speaker, you can go ahead and stand up there. We'll get the timer up there so everyone knows exactly how much time is available. Oh, okay, there we go. Perfect. All right, go ahead.
Hello, esteemed members of the board. My name is Paisley Goffany, and I'm the student body president at Tucson High Magnet School. Today, I would like to talk to you all about my experience this past year at Tucson High with an interim principal. The simple way to summarize this year is this. As a student leader, I lacked a voice. While I understand that Principal Comstock stepped in last minute, she made it clear from the beginning of the year that she was a principal for this year only. This statement, combined with a team of administrators who generally lacked in supporting me as a student leader, made for a year filled with canceled events for our graduating class and hard conversations. This year, the Tucson High Student Council got the privilege to host the Arizona State Convention of Student Councils. While most of you might be aware of this incredible honor, what you're not aware of is the lack of support I faced as the student in charge of the event. From meetings about the event with admin where only a few bothered to show up, to having to work around seemingly immovable sports practices the day of, the administration proved to be the complete opposite of the support system they needed to be. Alongside two of my siblings, I am entering into my senior year, and my younger sister will be starting her freshman year at the school. Yet despite the fact that I know the hiring process for a principal took place, here we are again with another interim principal. As the student body president and a big sister, I'm concerned for next year and the impact another interim principal will have on not only the staff and current student population, but the incoming freshman class. So I'm pleading with you to make the decision to hire a full-time principal and make a big step in giving me and other student leaders a voice. Thank you.
Next, we have Finley Parsons, followed by Gina Santos, followed by Cody Hamrick.
Good evening, members of the governing board, Dr. Trujillo. My name is Finley Parsons. I'm a math teacher at Tucson High School. Really wonderful to see my school represented here tonight in a thriving democratic environment, even though we're here to address some issues. But I'm here to discuss the assessment task force that was formed by TEA and TUSD, sort of following the governing board meeting of February 11th, where staff, students, and parents, community members brought concerns about the issue of excessive standardized testing in our schools. As a result of that, we established this task force between TEA and TUSD that was going to look at the current standardized testing practices in our district, and essentially assess the situation as it pertained to state requirements, right? And what testing really, what were the guardrails, as we were calling them, and what was excessive. So I want to say that I'm happy to say that process has been enormously productive. That's how we view it. It's been full of hard conversations, a lot of back and forth, but it's been an enormously productive process, I think, for this district, where we were kind of forced to engage in that very difficult but very important process of consensus building around really what best practices look like. And I think our collaborators in the assessment and evaluation department, I know we've shared similar sentiments about both of us. It's been valuable to hear each other's perspectives and kind of for them to hear that feedback from the ground. So yeah, I want to speak very positively about this whole process, and I hope at the future, either the next governing board meeting or the final one of the year on the 18th or whatever date that is, to give you kind of a final recommendation. But before that happens, I want to say really two things that I want you to hear in particular. The first one is that we're glad that the district has agreed to, in our conversations, we've heard agreement to pay teachers next year to write assessments that could be used as common interim assessments. We are hopeful that in future years, we will see if these assessments are predictive of performance on state summative assessments, which is one of the state of Arizona's requirements for common interim assessments or benchmarks. And then we also believe that when we propose our final recommendation to you, the board and the superintendent, that will include explicitly include a process for decision-making going forward around, because the plan is to continue the assessment task force, but an explicit process of decision-making that, again, ensures that we go through that difficult but valuable process of consensus building that has been so good for our leadership and our union. So yes, thank you.
All right, next we have Gina Santos, followed by Cody Hamrick.
Good evening, Dr. Trujillo on board. It always happens. In my almost 10 years as a public school educator, as a related service provider, I have never ended a year feeling so sad. I've had a few days to think and sit with this feeling, and I realize I am in a state of complete grief. The grief I feel is personal, it's vicarious, and it's overwhelming. This year, I had to say goodbye to more than a handful of colleagues, wonderful educators, from my summer Child Find co-evaluator, Ms. Mitza, to my middle school sounding board, Marion, to my SLP co-organizer and friend, Paige. They are all leaving because they can't do it anymore. What that means to each of them is their story, but what they all have in common is they can't work under the current conditions of public education or under the current conditions of TUSD. Many of us here today share this grief, worry, and urgency to, yes, improve our working conditions, but mostly to save our kids' learning environments. And not only to save them, but to make them better. We are educators, parents, and organizers. We are committed to this district and the grinding work it takes to chip away at process improvement. The collective grief of what is driving our organizing. Collective grief is what is driving our organizing. No es cosa de otro mundo to ask for reasonable testing standards for our kids. No es cosa de otro mundo to ask for a long-term vision for exceptional education services for our vulnerable students. No es cosa de otro mundo to ask for an interview process that includes and respects parents' voice. No es cosa de otro mundo to work collaboratively with rank and file TA members whose only goal is to make things better. Over the years, working in professional settings, I have often heard, if you have a complaint or a problem, come with a solution. We have come and will continue to come with well-thought-out, data-driven, student and community-centered solutions. We ask, we beg, we demand that TUSD use their own grief and urgency and lack of resources as a bridge to include us. The educators, parents, community of TUSD to do the work. Only in this solidarity, collective action, alliance with each other, we will be able to accomplish big things, like increasing enrollment, recruiting and retaining highly qualified staff from principals to teaching assistants, improving citywide proficiency in reading, writing, and math, and passing a much needed TUSD override for which I'll be walking my neighborhoods this summer. Will you join me, and will you commit to do better? Thank you.
Next we have Cody Hamrick, followed by Anna Badia.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the board, staff, parents, the TUSD community. My name is Cody Hamrick. I'm an exceptional education teacher at Tucson High Magnet School in the self-contained ID program. I'm here today to speak before you in regards to our leadership. We are a ship headed towards a reef, and we are in danger. We are ship headed directly for a reef, and we are in danger not because we have no captain. We are in danger because we have interim principals dinghied in and no one prepared or willing to make the large changes needed, changes to last. By no means is this a dig at our remaining administrative staff, but our campus now has 2 potential senior administrators, both of whom just finished their first year at Tucson High School. We are in danger because we have qualified, competent staff who are being overlooked for admin positions. We, for the past year, have had staff who refuse to make decisions on matters of everything from staffing to formal complaints for reasons of lack of their own longevity. When I seek advice from administrators elsewhere, they're appalled at the lack of action or attention that we are encountering. As a site, we need transparency and openness in our leadership, and it's going to be a revolving door if we don't. Our community needs input to ensure that admin officials, even interim officials, are going to be a fit with our long-established campus culture, and more so, willing to listen to the needs of our site. We need a captain, not a figurehead. We need someone willing and able to course correct a disaster sailing towards a reef. Will you commit to do better? Thank you.
Next, we have Anna Badia, followed by Brianne Butner.
Greetings, school board members. My name is Ana Badia, and I care about education. I have traveled to Washington, D.C. several times to meet with our legislators. I visited local senator offices to submit letters concerning the state of education as a nation, shared the struggles that as a district we face if federal funding is cut. Today I speak to you as an individual, a union member, and a staff member at Tucson High School. I am here to let you know that Tucson High deserves better. Tucson High does not need a substitute principal for a second year in a row. Yes, I said substitute. Tucson High's leadership is critical to all of us who are fully invested in our school. We have waited patiently for an entire year to work under a principal who will fully participate in the future success of our school. Although we appreciate Ms. Comstock's filling in after her retirement, Tucson High deserves a principal that intends to stay and create a community with all stakeholders. Stakeholders include faculty and staff, students, parents, alumni, and other community members. To say that Tucson High has been mismanaged this past year is an understatement. Administrators purposely created chaos, tension, and worked at breaking down relationships. They made a point to throw out tradition. Tucson High deserves better. Many times the word flagship has been used to describe Tucson High. Tucson High deserves better communication between the district and all stakeholders. When selecting leadership in which we are to place our trust. It took an entire year to hire a principal. That should have produced a qualified person to bring into our home. Tucson High deserves better. Instead, we are down to one assistant principal, which is great, by the way. But don't misunderstand me. I am okay with the fact that the other assistant principals have left or are leaving. They created damaging chaos, and we do not need that type of leadership. Tucson High deserves better. I feel that we need a diverse administration that reflects the community that we serve. We do not need a puppet for Mr. Trujillo. We need a true leader. We do not need any assistant principals who are projects that Mr. Trujillo wants to promote. We need experienced leaders who intend to bring our campus back together, that will build positive community, not be a power-hungry individual who only intends to promote themselves. We need leadership that will uplift faculty and staff, not who will bring bogus write-ups or disciplinary action because they do not know what they're doing or understand that we have rights.
Time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Brianne Butler, followed by Jerry Schuster.
TUSD Governing Board, I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you all today. My name is Brianne Butner, and I come today in my full role as a parent of an incoming third grader at Davis Bilingual Elementary, as well as a 1-year-old who you can hear screaming. So speaking here is not something I do or take lightly by any means. This year I was not able to return to the classroom as a teacher, so I opted to try to contribute to our school community as a member of the site council. In my vague knowledge of TUSD policies, I thought I would be part of the decision-making around a new principal appointment per Governing Board Policy CFC regarding school council, which states that the school council will be responsible for the selection of the school administration. I also take this responsibility very seriously, as I know that Davis is one of TUSD's beloved schools with a reputation as one rooted not only in the Tucson community, but in the philosophy of In La Quech, tú eres mi otro yo, you are my other me. According to the policy, councils can choose to determine the preferred qualifications for candidates. When we asked to contribute at an online meeting with HR and Mark Alvarez, regional superintendent, we were told that the preference of bilingualism was already listed. When we collaborated on a list of interview questions as a council, we were told that they would be looked at for possible ideas, but not actually used. When we brought names for interview panelists whom would actually speak with the candidates and rate them, we were told some were out of our purview, as they were filled by district requirements, and that our understanding of the considerations of ethnic composition of our community was not actually correct.
Even so, our council worked out not only a list of our top picks, but also a few other names in case our list was not approved by HR, which I still cannot find as part of the policy. We waited weeks for a date for interviews to be set. We have waited months for a date to be confirmed an appointment. We were told along the way, along with the rest of the school community, that candidate meet and greets would happen a few days before they actually did. And ultimately, as a site council, we were surprised by the candidates we met. I appreciate being asked for questions, but ultimately only a few were actually chosen by HR. I appreciate a mechanism for feedback at those meet and greets, although we were not told how the feedback would be used. And in fact, this is part of the process is still being created right now. All in all, in my time on the council this year, not only do I not feel like I have a true voice in this process, but as a parent, I do not feel like I am part of shared governance or even really honest collaboration in this district. My time is precious, you can hear. I give it willingly to continue what should be a democratic process and to fight for the protection of public education. I sacrifice time with my family, time to rest, time to organize around other pressing issues, to give time to Davis, to TUSD, to our school community, to pass bonds, overrides, to have walk-ins and marches, to fight for our schools. I love our schools, our students, our staff, and our Tucson community, and I plan on door knocking again this election cycle for us with a baby on my hip. But I do not appreciate my time being disrespected as a site council member and a dedicated TUSD parent. I will be there door knocking, and I will continue to show up. Will you show up with us? Will you join me? Will you commit to do better?
Dr. Ravi. Ms. Ekstrom, we're at the 20-minute mark.
How many are left, Dr. Shaw?
President Ekstrom, we have 10 more in person, and we have 4 to be read. Out of the 4 to be read, 1 is on a topic related to our board meeting tonight, an action item, and so I will move to continue call to the audience to have all those in person, as well as 1 that's to be read related to our action item to be included as well.
Second.
A motion has been made by Dr. Shaw and seconded by Ms. Shaw to extend call to the audience. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Go ahead, Mr. Schuster.
Good evening, Board President Ekstrom, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Trujillo, Councilor Ross, and staff. Once again, I thank you for this opportunity to speak before you. My name is Jerry Schuster. I'm a substitute teacher with TUSD. Tonight, I want to share an idea regarding an agenda item that was discussed at the previous board meeting, namely that of chronic absenteeism. Once again, I'd like to propose that we use means that are already available to us, namely online tools. We have, as I've mentioned in the previous meeting, we have online capabilities, we have TUVA. So we know that the problem of chronic absenteeism, of course, is quite substantial. One thing that we might consider doing is that when a student is absent, use the available tools, namely online. We could have the student attend remotely, and if the student's going to be absent for an extended period of time, use those tools as well. And these are tools, again, that we already have available to us. Again, we have online capabilities, we have TUVA, and so using something like that would not be without precedent, because as we recall, back in the COVID days, we were doing that. We had attendance taken both synchronously and asynchronously. So if a student's going to be absent, then that's one possible means for the student to be remotely present in the class and thereby not miss any classwork. Now, obviously, like anything else, it could be abused. So what I was thinking is we need to think of that as well. For example, we could require that if when a student takes a test or an exam, that would be done in person. We could also require adequate documentation, justification for a student being absent. But that said, it could certainly have a positive impact on our attendance, because as we know, chronic absenteeism has a negative impact both academically and financially. This is one way to address it, to have the students, when necessary, attend remotely. And again, we have the capability, we have online, we have TUVA, we can incorporate that. And again, we did this during COVID, so it's not something that's without precedent. Now, is this a panacea for the issue? Certainly not. But it could certainly, if done properly, I think could make a positive impact on the attendance issue. Once again, thank you very much and best wishes.
Great. Next, we have Rhonda Tarwater, followed by Natalie Mast.
Thank you. Thank you for extending it and letting us talk.
Can you put your microphone? I can't.
Better?
Yep.
Okay, good. Sorry. So I'm here today because I was really disappointed to hear that our related service provider presentation got removed from the agenda today, and I wanted to really make a point to you guys, especially about the OT. I'm Rhonda Michelle Tarwater. I work as a speech provider. I've been with TUSD for 17 years. I love my job, and I love the people that I work with. But this year I barely got to see my OTs, and I think you guys know from the Synergy stuff and the TUSD, that, God, I'm sorry. From the information that has been presented, we have 18 OT positions, and this year we only filled 10.8. And next year we only have a projection of 6.5 coming back to us. So that's a really large amount of people that aren't going to get their IEP services. And that doesn't even include those that are still waiting for OT services. Like I rolled 2 over this year, hoping that next year they'd get a screening for occupational therapy in addition to their speech therapy. So our current workload, it's simply too much. We can't keep doing what we're doing, and we're losing really amazing providers, and it's really hard for me to get people to come. I tell them I'm proud to be TUSD, and they're like, whoa, they want to come to this district. So I really, I feel that despite our carefully gathered data, that really highlights issues that really should be addressed by the board, and if the board could really push leadership to kind of work with us and collaborate with us, like that first woman said, it's a team effort. We all have to work together. We have to find things that work for all of us. It's hard to find people that want to do the job. So I give you guys a lot of respect for how you're trying to help us, and I really ask you to continue to push for the district to work with us. So the current workloads, I said that. So I implore you, please, wonderful members of the board and Dr. Trujillo, to collaborate with us, with the related service providers. We really are out there to help the students and the families succeed. We can't do this alone, and we really can't do it under the conditions that we're currently working under. So I am begging you to please help us serve our students and our families, because if we don't, they're going to continue to go off to charter schools where they feel they can get that individualized and specialized needs that we're really struggling to present to them. So, and when we ignore the data that we present to you, it just accelerates the loss. So I ask you, will you please commit with us to doing better? Please help us do better.
Next, we have Natalie Mast, followed by Natalie Fry, followed by Holly Boreoro. Sorry.
Good evening, board members. My name is Natalie. I'm an occupational therapist with the district, and I have two children that attend the district. And today I'm speaking on behalf of Katie Jones. And she says, I have been a speech language pathologist for 15 years, 7 of which I have worked in TUSD elementary schools. Over the years, I have seen changes in the job requirements, such as increased caseloads, more paperwork demands, and more case management tasks. This school year was my first in which I spoke up to ex-ed leadership about the increased demands of my job after being invited to attend the director's office hours and encouraged to share my concerns. The response I received at that meeting was disrespectful and dismissive. Other colleagues have shared similar experiences, which is why we collectively are asking for the district to work with us to create solutions on recruitment and retention of related service providers. I have been actively recruited by other school districts by my connections in the SLP community who value my experience and expertise in the field. I have seriously considered leaving TUSD, although I ultimately decided to stay for next school year. What we are asking for is to have a reasonable workload and to be paid for the work we put in. We know that you love to see data, so we as a professional group gathered some data of our own. According to our survey, the average SLP caseload in TUSD is 60 to 65 students, compared to the national average of 50 students or the Arizona average of 55. OTs in TUSD have an average caseload of 73 students compared to the national average of 50. Until 2010, TUSD had a caseload cap of 56 students for SLPs and OTs. SLPs in TUSD reported that they spend on average 5.35 hours per week outside of contract hours on work-related tasks. With high caseloads and high paperwork demands, we literally cannot get everything done within the workday. We understand that it may not be feasible to immediately reduce our caseloads, so we would like to see a standard that is equitably applied for giving stipends to those of us who choose to take on extra work. Currently, the 6/5 stipend appears to be awarded arbitrarily without regard to the actual workload of service providers. Some people have gotten the stipend and others have not, without being given explanation. Pay us for our work. TUSD has a choice. Continuing the current plan means high caseloads, higher turnover of related service providers, increased costs to replace professionals leaving the district, students not receiving their legally mandated services, and families leaving the district due to poor services. If TUSD works with our group, we can create solutions to increase retention of quality providers, provide quality service to our students, and retain students and families with TUSD. TUSD, will you please work with us to get this job done? Thanks.
Next, we have Natalie Fry, followed by Holly Barroero. Barroero. I'm sorry. I'm gonna fool myself today. Barroero.
Good evening, Governing Board. My name is Natalie Fry, and I'm a speech language pathologist for TUSD. I'm here tonight because my colleagues and I know that TUSD needs a proactive vision for the future of exceptional education, not just reactions and Band-Aid solutions that ultimately harm retention of our excellent related service providers. We need equitable pay and caseload or workload caps. I was disappointed to find out on Friday that our related service provider, or RSP, advocacy group would not be on the agenda to present the study item we had prepared on caseload caps after being invited by the board to present. I understand that Article 4-2 in the consensus agreement states that information discussed in bargaining may not be shared publicly unless all parties agree. However, advocacy for caseload caps began as a public issue. I want to invite the bargaining team and the board to agree to keep this issue open for public discussion. We have spent the year researching competitive pay, caseload caps, and workload caps in Tucson, as well as nationally and statewide, surveying colleagues in TUSD, completing workload calculators, and running detailed reports on synergy to understand the OT crisis we're facing. We are informed, committed, and eager to share our findings to help improve the district. Since we began advocating for ourselves as a united front of RSPs this year, we have had more communication with our ex-ed director than ever before. But unfortunately, true engagement is still minimal. For example, in February, we proposed an ex-ed forum to address urgent questions. When leadership agreed to participate in this forum, Dr. Salmon tried to set her own agenda for the event without our input. It wasn't until we requested that employee relations step in as facilitators that we were included in the plan at all, despite the fact that the forum existed to address our concerns. We need our leadership to initiate true collaboration. We need our leadership to join cadre meetings, ready to listen. Related service providers have been trying to share our data and ideas for improvement all year, but we need leadership that's ready to face our district's problems together. I speak tonight because I know that if our district leadership doesn't take a proactive and collaborative approach, SLPs could soon face the same crisis OTs are in now. We understand that TUSD faces financial challenges. Even so, we will keep advocating for improved conditions for RSPs because they lead to better outcomes for our students and for the district as a whole. Will you commit to do better? Thank you.
All right, I'll try again. Next, we have Holly Barroero, followed by Eileen Fisher, and then Julie Christie.
Good evening. My name is Holly Barrero, and I'm a speech language pathologist. My students call me Miss Holly because my last name is a mouthful. For the past 2.5 years, I've served TUSD by evaluating and providing speech language therapy services to students with communication disabilities. We work on building skills to effectively express our ideas for different purposes. For many non-speaking students, this includes fundamental skills like bringing attention to things that are important to us. Also, requesting to get one's needs met.
Need.
Expressing feelings.
Feel.
Protesting when something is wrong.
Stop.
And asking for help.
Help.
Essentially, we're teaching students, our most vulnerable students, to self-advocate. And we're here to advocate. This past year, you've seen SLPs, OTs, and PTs come together across the district to advocate on behalf of our profession and our students. You've heard from my colleagues. Related service providers are facing a cycle of caseload inflation that has been happening for years. But the district is not recognizing the issue, nor compensating the clinicians for the unsustainable workload we're taking on, working far past contract hours. The cycle looks like this. With high caseloads, students get less attention, and the quality of services decreases. So then students make slower progress, and with fewer students graduating from services, new referrals add up. They pile up to an already overwhelming caseload. Early identification and intervention is delayed, even though we know it's key, and then the cycle continues. Caseloads grow, clinicians burn out, and students suffer. But there's a solution to help break this cycle, and we know that it's caseload caps. It's a data-driven solution. This year, I made the decision to leave TUSD. Despite loving my school, my team, and the families that I serve, the combination of unmanageable caseloads and the dismissal of our struggles from leadership has left me running on empty all school year. I've accepted a position in town at a specialty nonprofit clinic where I'll continue serving kids with complex needs, but with the support that TUSD has not been providing. Did you know that when related service providers were surveyed this year, 100% of respondents said that implementing caseload caps would help retain us? And I'm here tonight as proof of that number. It's devastating to walk away from this district, but we cannot keep pouring everything we have into a system that takes advantage of our empathy and refuses to listen to us. So we're asking, will you commit to do better? Will you direct leadership to collaborate with related service providers with transparency? We've got the most creative problem solvers here who are asking to be part of the solution. Let them. Thank you.
Next, we have Eileen Fisher, followed by Julie Christie.
Good evening, Governing Board. My name is Eileen Fisher, and I will be reading a letter from an SLP colleague. Good evening. I am one of your speech language pathologists. I'm writing again regarding unsustainable workloads for speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy providers. High workloads limit our ability to provide legally required and high-quality services, hinder our ability to complete Medicaid billing, which negatively impacts Medicaid reimbursement, and causes us to miss compliance deadlines. This year, I had 116 students and was case manager for 65% of them. My caseload for next year is also high, and it will likely grow now that at least 2 SLP colleagues have resigned and moved to other districts. I'm frustrated and disappointed that TUSD did not take action to prevent this. These colleagues left due to excessive workloads and pay that didn't reflect the scope of their duties. They repeatedly asked for support but were ignored. It reflects poorly on the district that an SLP who gave 6 years of service left simply to find sustainable working conditions. We polled related service providers across TUSD, and 100% of respondents said caseloads or workload caps would incentivize them to renew contracts. Despite months of advocacy, including calls to the audience and participating in the Exceptional Education Forum, the district has failed to act. Even worse, a study item on caseload caps promised to us and requested by Ms. Shaw was quietly removed from the agenda of the first board meeting of the summer, when many assumed no one would be paying attention. It felt like something straight out of politics, slipping a high-impact decision through while the public's back is turned. That move was a slap in the face to those of us who have shown up again and again, hoping for transparency and partnership. Frankly, it was deeply disappointing to see district leadership go back on its word, further eroding the trust we've been working to build. Provide us what we need to do our jobs well and serve our students effectively. Sustainable workloads are essential to ensuring students receive the services they are legally entitled to. When workloads are unmanageable, students' needs go unmet, staff burnout, and the district's ability to retain qualified providers suffers. In order to retain the current providers you are lucky to have, you need to reduce our workloads. Collaborate with us in bargaining to develop and implement sustainable workloads so we can better serve disabled students and more of us don't resign. Will you commit to do better? Sincerely, Lauren Alexander Morrison.
Next, we have Julie Christie, followed by Jeanette Ruppel.
Good evening, governing board members. My name is Julie Christie, and I am a speech-language pathologist in TUSD. I am writing this letter in support of my colleagues who have put forth time and effort researching issues pertinent to related service providers and the students and families we serve. Those being competitive pay in order for improved recruitment and retention of related service providers. Number 2, caseload workload caps for improved outcomes for students and families, retention and recruitment of related service providers. They have reached out to district leadership in the hopes of working together in order to begin the process of problem solving and finding solutions to the crisis facing occupational therapists and taking steps to recruiting and retaining related service providers. While some steps have been taken on the part of leadership, it appears as though they are not fully committed to moving forward with the next steps needed for effective change. Related service providers work with some of the most vulnerable students in the district, students with significant disabilities. Failing to recognize the seriousness of the issues brought to the forefront by my colleagues negatively impacts outcomes for the students and the families we serve. Will you commit to do better? Thank you for your time and consideration of these matters.
Next, we have Jeanette Ruppel, followed by Lillian Fox.
Good evening. My name is Jeanette Ruppel, and I would like to speak a few minutes about the override vote. As you can tell, I have a very selfish reason for want the override, or should I say, my children have a very selfish reason for the override to pass, since they would like to move out of my parents' house and hopefully in a house where they can all have their rooms. But I want to speak to you about why I didn't go start in a public school at TUSD. My parents chose to send my brothers and I to my brothers and me, I'm an English teacher, chose to send us to a Catholic school. And the reason I was sent there instead of following my father's footsteps and starting at TUSD was because my mother wanted me to go to a pre-kindergarten. She also wanted us to have a librarian and go to the library. She wanted us to have music classes. She wanted us to have PE classes and art classes. And so that's why I spent my first 10 years of education in Catholic school before moving to a TUSD high school. When I had my own children, I wanted to send them to a pre-kindergarten as well. And I had to send them to a private pre-kindergarten. When it was time to move them into public school, many of their friends went to charter schools because their parents were concerned like mine were. They wanted their children to have PE teachers, art teachers, music teachers, librarians. And this is why the override is so important, because our students, our families deserve the education and the opportunities that I had in Catholic school, that my children had before going into public high school, into charter schools. We are losing families because we are not being able to give them these services that studies have shown will help our students do better in all sorts of curriculum. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Lillian Fox, followed by Guadalupe Henninger, followed by Paige Anderson.
Board President, Ms. Ekstrom, and board members, and Dr. Trujillo, and Attorney Ross, and Ms. Bordeaux, I'm going to talk about the budget. The budget in TUSD is ridiculous. It's been ridiculous for years. You get far more money than any other school district in this county, far more per student. You get the second most amount of money per student of the large districts, and yet you have the worst performance. You are the next to the worst, poorest performing local district. You are the next to the worst performing of the local school district, of the large districts. It's been hard for me to understand why, with all that money, this is such a crummy district and why we're missing so many things. Furthermore, we pay our teachers a lot less than average for Arizona, so we're not wasting money on teachers. Take this up first, turn to the side that has the green highlighting. This shows one of the problems, just insane budgeting. If you look at this, the important stuff is down here in red, underlined. We spent about $1.7 million last year watering the grass. We actually spent more than that. On the other hand, the total we spent on instructional supplies, health supplies, and library media and books was $1.2 million. This year we're spending less. So we're spending more watering the grass, making no effort to do something about the grass, and spending less on the kids. We spend $2 a student for health supplies. That doesn't cover sanitary supplies. It doesn't cover an incredible number of health supplies that kids need. If we supplied sanitary supplies to girls, it would help your attendance, because low-income girls stay home when they have their period because they don't have sanitary supplies. That's a simple solution to a big problem that would pay for itself. Now, the other problem is this document is the staffing formula. This is where everything the schools are supposed to get is supposed to be listed. It's missing a whole bunch of stuff. You just heard a whole bunch of speech therapists complain about their caseload. They should be on this with the caseload caps listed. It's not there. The nurses aren't listed. The reading and math recovery teachers aren't there. So for a district that has abysmal academic performance, you have a total of 12 math recovery teachers and a total of 20 reading recovery teachers, because they're not here. Anything that's not on this chart, administration can cut. They don't discuss it with you. They just reduce the numbers. And you don't know, and the public doesn't know because it's buried in the budget. Thanks.
Next, we have Guadalupe Henninger, followed by Paige Anderson.
Good evening to all TUSD. Thank you for all your hard work. Congratulations to Dr. Trujillo for the well-deserved award. My name is Guadalupe Heininger, and I would like to speak about item 7.4, artificial intelligence use and education. What I worry is that how much it's going to cost and the amount of money it's going to take when there is already a tight budget. I worry that if it's not done right, it might stifle our students' critical thinking. And I have questions about the part that reads that AI integration should be guided by teachers, professionals, judgments without mandatory oversights. Can you clarify this? Our students are the casualties of the internet, social media, AI, and lack of guardrails, fact-checking, and unethical use. Why have we lost the internet to the culture of lies, hate, and division, disinformation, and misinformation, and half-truth? Special interest groups and some elected officials have created the weaponization of social media and somehow convinced millions of people to stay home and not to vote because their vote wouldn't make a difference. Your vote is power, and it matters if you vote. Right now, this is the question. Are you better now than you were a year ago? The internet and social media wouldn't exist without the people. Please, let's go back to the time where the internet had guardrails, put people before profits. It was a place of curiosity and knowledge, and it was diverse, distinct, and dynamic. I would also like to remind everybody that the majority of the people, Democratic, Independents, Republicans, and others, want our elected officials to uphold the oath they took to defend the Constitution and
Thank you.
fund our schools.
Our last in-person comment is from Paige Anderson.
Good evening, Governing Board. My name is Paige Anderson, a speech-language pathologist and now a former TUSD employee after serving the district for 6 years. I'm here to speak once again on the urgent need for caseload and workload caps for occupational, physical, and speech-language therapists, related service providers, or RSPs. We were told there would be a study item on tonight's agenda so we could present data supporting our request. You've received that presentation, which we meticulously compiled outside of contract hours during our busiest weeks of the school year. We gathered this data to show that our call for caps is not us complaining, as some in the district leadership would have you believe. By keeping us off tonight's agenda, the district has once again tried to silence us, but we will not be silenced, and we will not stop advocating for our students and ourselves. We're asking the board to direct staff to work meaningfully and collaboratively with us now in bargaining and during next school year to develop caseload and/or workload caps as a recruitment and retention strategy for RSPs so we can better serve our ex-ed students. Emphasis on meaningfully and collaboratively, because that has not been our experience thus far. For months, we've asked the district to work with us to solve the recruitment and retention crisis. Just last week, we presented our data at the TEA TUSD ex-ed subcommittee meeting, only to be interrupted and accused of fabricating data and of not attempting to collaborate. The head of employee relations even said, "So you want to do less work for more pay?" No, we want fair compensation for a fair workload. During active, closed-door bargaining happening now, and this happened recently, an ex-ed assistant director told RSPs that Dr. Salmon, who isn't on the bargaining team, said that we'll get a $5,000 raise and no caseload caps. This completely undermines the bargaining process and erodes trust. This lack of respect and collaboration is why I'm leaving TUSD to work in a neighboring district, where I'll make 30% more salary with a similar caseload size. Leaving was painful. I loved my students and colleagues at Pueblo and Choya high schools. My RSP colleagues are the best people I've ever worked with, but I won't stay in a district where I'm treated as disposable, despite pouring my heart into this job. SLPs, OTs, and PTs are among the most in-demand professions in the U.S. TUSD would benefit from working with us, not pushing us out. Please direct staff to collaborate with my RSP colleagues respectfully and meaningfully. TUSD, Will you commit to do better? And lastly, to my amazing colleagues, yes, you can. Thank you.
Finally, I'll read the one comment to be read that we'll read tonight related to an item on our agenda. The other comments will be emailed to us following the meeting. This comment is from Susan Neal. Number 7 on the governing board meeting today mentions that with the bond money, TUSD wants to buy artificial turf for all high school football fields. What does the soccer team feel about this, as well as football players? I know it will be a bad choice for the turf to be added. Due to the injuries it could cause more than grass fields. It also comes with various harbor of germs and cause diseases due to accumulated sweat, skin cells, body oils, dirt, and blood and saliva on the fibers. Staph infection, MRSA, and E. coli and salmonella poisoning can occur as well. Not a good choice for our students. Please don't put this on our fields. And that concludes call to the audience. President Ekstrom.
Thank you. Would any governing board member like to address call to the audience? Ms. Luna Rose and then Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. And thank you for everybody who spoke this evening. Just real briefly, I would like to just recognize the 2 students that came to speak this evening. It's always probably my favorite part of the job here is to listen to the students, because you're the reason why we're all here. And so and we are working to try to make things better. That's why we're here, and listening to the adults. But you're definitely, what you're saying resonates. So I just wanted to make that notice to you. Thank you for coming.
Ms. Shaw?
Thank you, everyone, for speaking tonight and for your patience. I want to echo my colleague, Ms. Luna Rose, and thank the students for speaking today. If staff can review the matter posed by Ms. Rios regarding the clubs and the following of rules and how some clubs can do things that others can't, I would appreciate that. And if we can direct our new principal, once hired, to follow through with equal treatment of all clubs and their leadership. And in regards to the other student who spoke about, and all the staff too, who spoke about the issues with the former principal, I'm very sorry that you all had to deal with that. I think leadership, whether it's interim or not, should take the role seriously and treat the job as if it was their permanent position. And I will certainly direct the new principal to treat it as such. My apologies. Thank you, Ms. Butner, for your comment about the site council and how the democratic processes are being usurped. I would like to add to a future agenda a review of our policy code CFC to make sure that what is outlined is actually being followed. I appreciate her letting us know that it's definitely not being followed, and I'm reviewing it now and very disappointed that we've let this go for so long. Let's see. And then thank you to all the related service providers for speaking out tonight. I am so sorry that this has not arrived on this agenda today. I've been told that it will be on the agenda for June 10th. That being said, I don't want it to be a one-sided discussion. I do want our bargaining team of related service providers to be able to present their information as well and speak to us at the podium. And I just want to state that I am in support of implementing a caseload cap for related service providers. And thanks, Ms. Fox, for your due diligence in pointing out the budget items. I would like to add to a future agenda a reoccurring purchase, or to explore a reoccurring purchase of menstrual supplies for all of our schools. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address anything said at call to the audience? Thank you. That concludes call to the audience. Next, we'll move on to item 7.1, administrative appointments, Principal Davis Bilingual Elementary Magnet School. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, President Ekstrom, members of the governing board, it's with great pride and excitement that I present our recommendation for the next principal of Davis Bilingual. We're extremely excited to have a two-way dual language educator who got her start as a bilingual education educator down in the El Paso area, Socorro Independent School District, where she went on to serve at all levels as a teacher, as an assistant principal, and then the proud principal of Loma Verde, an award-winning school within the Socorro Independent School District. And she was very, very impressive throughout our interview process. Her passion for dual language and her passion for sharing her love of Spanish language to students learning it as a second language won the day with our interview committee, and certainly won the day with our parents that had an opportunity to interact with her. So, governing board members, I'd like to recommend Rose Carrion to serve as the next principal of Davis Bilingual Elementary Magnet School.
I'll move the item.
I'll second.
The item has been moved by Ms. Luna Rose and seconded by Dr. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Those opposed? Congratulations, Ms. Corion.
Thank you. Congratulations. Ms. Carrion is traveling this evening, but she is joining us here on Zoom, so I'd like to invite Ms. Carrion, if you'd like an opportunity to address the board and the public.
Thank you so much for this great opportunity. I am so proud to be the principal at Davis Elementary. That school is a gem. We have work to do, but we're going to roll up our sleeves and make it an A+ school, and we're going to do great things at Davis Elementary. Thank you again, the governing board. Thank you, Dr. Trujillo, for this great opportunity. I'm very excited. Todo con ganas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Next is item 7.2, administrative appointments, interim principal, Lineweaver Elementary School. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, President Ekstrom, members of the governing board, our next recommendation certainly has some large shoes to fill as Ms. Walls moves on to her next leadership challenge over at Miles K-8. But in her own right has been an absolutely wonderful campus leader at Lineweaver, where she has served for the last 5 years as the assistant principal, and then prior to that served over at McGee for a year as assistant principal before coming and joining the Lineweaver family. And so tonight we are proud to recommend that current assistant principal Christine Georgelos step in and serve as the interim principal of Lineweaver Elementary for the 25-26 school year, while the school gets summer school underway and gets ready for next school year. We feel she's going to offer excellence in leadership and continuity of leadership for the Lineweaver community. So Christine Georgelos is our recommendation this evening.
I would move to approve Christine Georgelis to serve as interim principal of Lineweaver Elementary School.
I'll second.
It has been moved by myself and seconded by Dr. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Congratulations, Ms. Georgelis.
Congratulations. I'd like to invite you to say a few words to the board, our newest principal.
Good evening, Dr. Trujillo, President Ekstrom, esteemed members of the governing board. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this opportunity to be the new leader at Lineweaver Elementary and serve for this next year as interim principal at Lineweaver. I've been the assistant principal for 5 years. I have enjoyed my time there. I have learned a lot, and I'm very excited about this upcoming school year. And I look forward to leading our staff and community in securing leadership for the upcoming years. So thank you very much again for this opportunity. I'm very excited.
Thank you. If you'll go through the line of congratulations and then come back and we can take a photo. Thank you, teachers and Principal Walls, for being here as well.
And parents.
Yes. And parents. Next is item 8.1, resolution ordering and calling for a special maintenance and operations budget override election to be held in and for the Tucson Unified School District on November 4th, 2025, and declaring the deadline to submit statements for and against the election. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, members of the governing board, members of the public, before we get into the override and what it's going to focus on, I think it's important to really talk about the why. And when I talk to groups, I often refer to public schools as the premier transformational institution in American life. It's the only institution that, number one, we all share communally, regardless of where we are in life, generation-wise, age-wise. We probably all share that experience of meeting the most meaningful people in our lives in school. It's where kids' lives are transformed for the better. And at the center of that transformational work is the work of the classroom teacher. But the classroom teacher doesn't do it alone. There's this entire ecosystem, this beautiful ecosystem of wonderful, caring adults that empower teachers to do the amazing work that they do and do amazing work in their own right. An ecosystem that consists of counselors and principals and social workers and MTSS coordinators, our related service providers for our ex-ed students, our monitors, our custodians, our crosswalk guards. Our schools are filled with these amazing, caring adults who wake up every morning with the sole purpose of supporting our teachers and transforming the lives of students. But the challenge is getting the best, retaining the best, and attracting the best for these positions, because our students deserve nothing but the best. And our challenges are a story of numbers. Mainly $64,898. That's the starting teacher salary for Flowing Wells Unified School District. $62,000, I'm sorry, that was the average teacher salary over in Flowing Wells. $62,000 is what Marana pays. That's their average teacher salary over there in Marana. Catalina Foothills is at $63,000 as the average teacher salary. We, at $56,000 and change, are struggling to compete. What do all those districts have in common? They have overrides. They have overrides that are targeted at investing in that ecosystem that I talked about to make sure that they have an entire infrastructure with regard to compensation to attract and retain the very, very best in teachers and counselors and social workers, and we need to be able to do the same if we're really going to address a lot of the challenges that we know that we face. So we know that challenge number one and priority number one in any override package has got to be investing in our people. It looks like the clicker is, if I can get help with the clicker. Oh, yeah, sorry. Just advance the slide.
Dr. Trujillo?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if your mic is like too low or you're not putting it against your mouth.
Can you hear me? Testing, testing.
That's better.
Okay.
Okay.
So we know that the first charge is to invest in our people. So if we want to look at that first slide, we're talking about a dramatic investment in that very ecosystem that I talked about, starting with our teachers that would seek to invest an additional $7.3 million in their compensation and raise their actual step by another $250 with an additional investment of $800,000 or $800,000 for a total investment of $16.8 million. To talk about what this means for our teachers, I want to invite the president of the Tucson Education Association to talk about the significance of this investment and just what it means. Mr. Jim Byrne.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. Kind of reflecting on my journey, coming from teaching in upstate New York to out here in Tucson, landing my first teaching gig over at the Juvenile Detention Center. And my transition to TUSD meant a big pay cut. And it was one where I looked at my first contract number and being like, man, that was a master's degree ago and like 4 years of teaching experience that I took a pay cut, but it was because it was at Choya High School. It was the chance to teach culturally relevant pedagogy and be a part of a big district like this, and just sort of the exciting things that can take place in here. Knowing that, I had to take the opportunities that presented themselves for subbing to add onto the salary, take as many PD opportunities, take the 6/5 opportunities, just to work to make ends meet. And I know that is often the case for so many educators throughout our district. And without those opportunities, I'm sure the flight would be a lot greater. Part of the other investment that we see through compensation is I think one of the factors that our average is so low is the high turnover rate, and we have younger and younger or less experienced teachers coming in, so they're lower on the salary schedule. So what can we do to keep them here? It's the recruitment piece through salary and compensation. It's investing at the elementary school so that we have those full-time PE, the full fine arts educators in there, so that we can keep those educators in at that foundational level that's so important. But to be able to put this up there in front of voters and to have our union and other educators be able to walk out there and say, my compensation's on the line, my colleagues' compensation on the line, what it means to our campus, what it means to this district, would be just monumental. And that transformational piece that is going to keep the best quality educators here, attract more, perhaps from those competing districts, but make TUSD the place for highly qualified educators to come, engage in the pedagogy and instruction that we have here, the great programs, the CTE that we see coming in there, and really build that foundation for a successful future for TUSD.
And we see up there multiple step increase, 4-step increase, not only for our teachers, but a 4% salary increase for all of our other employees who make up that incredible ecosystem that I talked about. Next slide. This is also about nurturing success in the classroom. We know a lot about what it takes for students who are working off grade level with math and with reading literacy and numeracy. It is targeted small group instruction that takes place during the school day, so that we don't create an additional barrier for tutoring or after school or weekends where parents have to come in. We've got to give them the intervention in real time. This is investing and expanding in that access that students have to reading and math interventions to the tune of $6.6 million. And we all know about the magic of the arts. So it goes without saying that this package would seek to add and expand fine arts to 14 additional schools for an additional $4.6 million investment. And here to talk a little bit about what that means is Dr. Ashcraft. I don't think we have, do we have her tonight? I'm not sure. Okay. But we'll bring her back. Yeah.
She was here a few moments
I
ago.
saw
They
her
called the
just
audience,
a few moments ago, but perhaps she'll make her way back in. But the arts, one of our strengths, we know that it brings parents into our schools, and we know that it brings communities together. Next slide. Investing in our students' well-being is huge. Here's another important number. We have the average caseload size for counselors across the district. It's a challenge, sometimes 600 or 700 students. And it is hard for them to connect, to do that attendance work, to be that liaison between the school and the family, to really work with kids that are disaffected or are missing school when you're managing 600 students to a caseload. So we are looking at investing in our students' well-being and really attacking that school counselor ratio from 500 to 400. And for the first time, really providing social workers on a comprehensive level to all of our different high schools. We know for a long time our parents have asked for PE. We've heard a lot of calls to the audience over the years about PE. We've seen a lot of advocacy for PE. This package would invest $3 million in making sure that there are PE teachers available at all of our schools, according to enrollment. So even having a half-time PE teacher for our small schools is a huge step forward for, as compared to what they're getting now. So this package really, really seeks to really focus in on the well-being, the physical, as well as the social emotional. Talking about working with our students and getting them across the graduation line is extremely important. Credit recovery expansion in our high schools is absolutely essential, especially if we want to meet the demand of students who are in need of credit recovery. So talking a little bit about what that means is Mr. Armenta, who spearheads our credit recovery efforts in the district, and just what this expansion would do for access.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo, for this opportunity. Governing Board, nice to see you. This would give us an opportunity to go beyond the alternative pathways to student success that we currently have. As you know, I've come before you with this project that we had, expanding that in all of our high schools. I will tell you that it's a very popular program in our schools, and I think it gives us a competitive edge with our competitors in Tucson. This is an opportunity for us to even open it even up larger as we walk into the idea of what we look like for chronic absenteeism and attendance. I think this gives us an opportunity to look beyond the 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock hour. But I will tell you that our schools and our principals are doing an amazing job at offering this credit recovery. And then the last thing I want to just emphasize is that we do have, under Dr. Hewitt's leadership and Luke Sheba, who's over Apex, having the opportunity to work with the committee to really look at how we can refine that with fidelity and ensure that we are giving our students the opportunity, but also highlighting and respecting our teachers who are doing this work. So I look forward to this opportunity to continue to expand credit recovery in our district.
One of the big passion point for this community is universally accessible, high-quality early childhood education. This package would represent a giant leap forward in our continuing voyage to making sure that we realize a vision one day of universally accessible early childhood education everywhere. Here talking about what this package means to that expansion is our director for pre-K in our community schools programs, Mrs. Reem Kivet.
Thank you. It was very exciting for me to hear that 82% of voters supported investing in early childhood and after-school programming. My heart just leaped with excitement and joy. And so this will help provide full-day preschool programming in addition to our PEEPS programs for free. Right now, all our free programs are part day outside of the PEEPS programs. So this really provides access for a longer day that a lot of our families need and want. It is very difficult for them to leave work and manage the pickup and drop off right now in our current Title I and inclusive preschool programs. This also will really help support purchase of and very critical and important instructional materials and supplies that support, hands-on learning and materials that are engaging to students. We've really seen a decline in our budget over the last several years, and the only reason we're really sustaining high-quality programming is the funding that we receive from Quality First scholarships, which has been cut by more than half in the last couple of years. So we're a little nervous about what's to come and how we're going to sustain that quality. This override can really help us do that. So we're really excited and we're grateful for your consideration. Thank you.
Workforce readiness is huge. And we know that career and technical education programs unlock the door of access to work readiness for thousands of students across the district. So here to talk about this package's potential $1.1 million investment in the expansion of some of our most popular programs across the district, we have Chuck McCollum, our program coordinator for CTE. Mr. McCollum.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo, and welcome and hi, board members. As you know, CTE is a very popular programs in our district. There are over 7,000 students who take, high school students, who take part in career and tech ed at the 100th day this year. 2,900 of them are in our industrial programs. Right now, as you know out there, we really need folks who are taking on, or kids who want to move into those industrial programs, and we're seeing a lot of interest from our students. This investment will help us put instructional aides, and let me define what an instructional aide is. An instructional aide is somebody, just as it states, who's in the classroom with the teacher to help kids in an instructional program. So in other words, you have a welding teacher and you have an aide in there. That provides us with two sets of eyes in a very liability conscious program. It also allows us to increase instruction. So those instructional aides are critical at this point. And to be quite honest with you, we just can't afford to do that right now. We are turning away kids in our instructional programs because we just cannot service them. As far as a systems integration specialist focused on technology, right now we have one tech who services 60 programs, one tech. To add a second tech will make things a lot easier, more efficient, and provide the service our teachers need. And then for career coaches, it's very important that we start to get students to realize maybe what their career pathway is at a younger age, whether it is post-secondary, direct employment, or even the military, or the one thing they can't do is sit on their parents' couch. We need them to start looking at that at a younger age. These four positions would help us service our high school students and possibly move into our middle schools to help our kids make those choices. I think this, for a total investment of $1.1 million, is a very good investment. Something that we need to do, something that our kids need, something that our community needs. So I'm excited if this thing passes. Thank you.
A package that invests in our people. And remember, schools are communities. They're made up of people and the passions that they bring in the work that we do for kids. A package that seeks to expand high-quality early childhood ed for our youngest learners and workforce readiness for our secondary learners. A package that promises to strengthen student support services with counselors and social workers across our schools. A package that also simultaneously seeks to expand the arts and for the first time make physical education available everywhere. This is truly a transformational package that can change the face of this district as never before. And so before we get into sort of the less exciting aspects of the package, because we know we have to talk about cost, I wanted to make sure that our team was available for any board member questions on the actual package itself.
Governing board members, are there any questions for Dr. Trujillo regarding the override package?
Or should we wait now or wait until after Ricky's presentation?
I think he wants to take questions now, correct?
We can do questions on the actual package, or we can just go to the financial wrap-up and sort of the costs, and then do questions.
You want to wait? Okay.
Okay. And so with that, yes, it's a beautiful package. However, everything has a cost. So I'm going to bring up Ricky to just give the very basics on the package with regard to election costs, to the impact on the cost of the package itself with respect to property taxes and the impact of our homeowners inside of TUSD. Mr. Hernandez.
Good evening, board members. I have the distinct duty of providing you the boring stuff. Yeah, the other presentation. No, not that one. The financial, it's in the same board agenda item. No, not that one either.
Looks like this.
It's in the same BAI. It's override financials. Yeah. Yes, that's it. Thank you. So, as Dr. Trujillo mentioned, obviously there are some costs associated and what does this mean for the voters. Before I get into it, just real briefly on what an override actually is. So districts are allowed to request that their voters authorize them to exceed what's called the revenue control limit by up to 15% for 7 years. The benefit of the way it's calculated is you use prior year average daily membership with current year funding. So if your prior year ADM was higher, then you get the opportunity of using a higher enrollment with a higher base support level to calculate the override. It does require an authorization from voters, as we will be asking them to increase their property taxes. The full 15% would be available for 5 of the 7 years. In the 6th year, it would go down to 10, 7th year to 5, before it would disappear entirely by the end of the 7th year. However, it can be renewed by voters before the expiration of the 15% level, generally in years 4 or 5. The override specifically would add capacity to M&O. This means that it could be used for any M&O eligible purpose, which does not include capital. Okay, so we cannot purchase any kind of capital related items. As a separate note, TUSD is the only school district in the Tucson metro area that does not have a budget override. Sunnyside was the other one up until last year, but their voters approved an override last fall. So what does this mean from a financial perspective? So in the first year, the estimate would be $45,025,670. This assumes that we would increase our base support level in 26-27 by 2%, but we would actually have a decrease of the average daily membership of 1.5. Obviously, if these numbers change, that amount of money would change. But this amount specifically would be added to the 26-27 fiscal year budget if approved this fall by the voters. The amount would actually create a tax rate of $1.02 that would be added to everybody's secondary property taxes in TUSD. So a homeowner who pays about who owns a home of about $200,000 would pay at about $204 per year, about $17 per month. A business owner with a $500,000 business would pay about $842 a year, or $70 more per month. And the rate and the levy would change depending on the changes in the assessed valuation that come out annually by the assessor. From a transparency and accountability standpoint, unlike a bond, there aren't specific ways to track these dollars, but we would actually create those systems. So in the finance department, we would establish a sub-fund within M&O to track the override budget and the expenditures that come out, so that we would actually track these separately from just the general M&O. All the budgeted expenditures and the budgets would be tracked for every single department. We would establish activity codes for every single thing. So CTE would have an activity code, fine arts, and so on. And we would actually track those as well. Any adjustments to any of those budgeted expenditures, right, that have to move between categories would require finance approval before they are processed, right? We do not want money moving if it doesn't need to move. In addition to this, from a reporting standpoint, we would establish 2 financial reports. One, we would create a supplemental budget report that would be provided to you as part of the proposed budgeting process. So there isn't an actual form that the State Department or the Auditor General creates for an override. So we would provide you relevant information similar to the way we do DSEG, as well as a supplemental annual financial report. There isn't an annual financial report for overrides, but we would create a distinct report that just tracks the override information, again, similar to the way we do with DSEG. So what are the next steps? If approved by you tonight, we will forward this resolution to the Pima County School Superintendent to hold an all-mail ballot election this November. Individuals and organizations may submit statements for or against the override to the Superintendent of Schools of Pima County by 5 p.m. on August 8th. The board will be required to submit a pro statement. This is a statutory requirement that we will bring to you. We will work with you to craft one, and you will have to vote on it in an open session before we can turn this over to the county school superintendent. There can only be 10 statements for and 10 statements against maximum. The board statement does count as 1. So really people are gonna be able to put in 9 more. The county school superintendent determines the order and who basically kind of gets published and who doesn't. Generally, it's chronological. The last day to register to vote for this election would be Monday, October the 6th, and ballots would start being mailed out by the Pima County Recorder that Wednesday, October the 8th. Election day would be November the 4th. Now, obviously, because this is a standalone election, there is no other county-wide election on November the 4th. We would pay for the entire expense of the election, which is approximately $1 million. As a comparison, the bond election cost the district $895,000 at that time. There is very slim, probably no possibility to consolidate this election with the city of Tucson's election. So we would actually have, the county would run the election for the school districts, and then the city would run its own. My understanding is that Flowing Wells and Sunnyside will also be having elections this fall in their respective school districts, so that might actually contribute to some decreased cost, but overall it'd be about $1 million that the district itself would have to pay. And with that, we will take your questions.
Governing board members, questions for Dr. Trujillo or Mr. Hernandez? Dr. Shaw and then Ms. Leonard Rose.
All right, thank you, President Ekstrom, and thank you for all the presentations, Ricky and the different leadership team members that presented, and Dr. Trujillo, and thank you for my fellow governing board members for considering this proposal tonight. I want to start by thanking all the teachers and staff. I might not be the most vociferous on this dais in terms of saying things at every meeting, but I'm really excited about this override potential because it can really help, at least start helping addressing some of the compensation that we know is sorely missing. And thank you to Jim and Art and others in TEA for all of your work and meetings over the last, 6+ months to really craft these priorities. This isn't everything that we want to do or could do, but this, I think, is a really great start because it addresses a lot of issues and then also frees up some money to maybe do some things in the future based on how our budget looks, how enrollment looks, how state financing looks for our district. So I think this is a great start. And I love the priorities we set out here. I think the categories of affecting pay and compensation, first and foremost, we want to be able to pay our teachers and staff better than we are now. With inflation, with so many other factors over the last couple of years, we know we're not meeting the needs, and that's really tough as a governing board member to know that we're just not having enough money for a lot of these things and what we want to do. And so I really appreciate this opportunity to really try to show value to the work that is being done in our district by addressing compensation with over a third of the $45 million proposed going towards compensation for our teachers and staff. And then, of course, continuing these programs and services. I'm excited for what this can mean for my 3 kids, for all of our kids here on the dais, for all 40,000 students in TUSD to have these programs, more art and music, more PE, more mental health services available for my kids, for all of our kids. And this will help continue and expand programs and services that we know are working for our kids and throughout our district. And then finally address our budget deficit. We are coming into this next school year with a budget deficit. If this override doesn't pass, we'll be working a year from now on approving a budget that is complete opposite, that is cutting services and programs, that is limiting staff salaries and benefits and doing so many other things that we know is going to harm the 40,000 kids in our community. And this override allows us to do these things, address some of our budget deficits in a fiscally responsible way, and we'll be talking in a few minutes later on in the agenda about what we are doing right now as a district going into the next school year to address our fiscal responsibility and addressing some of the enrollment loss with cutting mostly administrative and other departmental budgets that don't affect students directly. And so I think we are doing a lot of things as a district to live within our means, and this will allow us to not only expand services and programs, but shore up our budget so that we can even do more in the future, I hope, and address things that are missing that we know we want to do for our teachers and staff and students throughout our district. So a lot of work has gone into this, and I'm really excited about what this could mean for our district and for our community here in Southern Arizona if the voters give us a chance and support our district like they did with the bond 2 years ago.
Ms. Rose.
Thank you, Ms. Ekstrom. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. I have a question and then a comment. Can you, to let those who are here in person listening, what exactly the $1 million to put this election on the ballot would do?
So that cost goes to several things. Publishing, printing and mailing publicity pamphlets. Every household of the registered voter would get one. Paying election workers and setting up voting centers. So we have to pay the individuals who manage those voting centers. the tabulation of ballots. So we have to pay Pima County Elections to tabulate all our votes. We also have to pay the Pima County Recorder for printing and mailing of all the ballots, since this will be an all-mail ballot election. So for the most part, that is kind of the brunt of the operation and what we have to pay for.
Okay. Thank you. And I just want to echo Dr. Shaw in terms of, one, I think this is a great package to bring to the voters. I'd also like to thank the work of TEA and staff. I know there's a lot going on to make this work. And I just want to, I will support this tonight. I was a little uneasy when we did when the presentation came to us concerning how the voters felt, but this is needed, and we need it now. So I will support this. I implore everybody that works for the district to out knocking on doors at 110 heat. This is what's going to, we need everybody. We need all our bargaining units, we need parents, we need students, we need staff. We need you if we're going to support this and ask for this to be put onto the ballot in November. So I cannot, and I will be out there as well, knocking on doors. I'm a veteran door knocker and not afraid to talk to the public about why this is needed. We're the only district that does not have one. We are the largest district that doesn't have one currently in the state, because I did do a little bit of research. So this will make us competitive. It'll make people want to come to this district with the things that we offer, and I will be supporting it this evening.
Ms. Shaw? Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I want to echo my colleagues in giving thanks to TEA and all the staff who have endured over the years the low compensation and really everything, and all the students as well who have endured through the cuts and the lack of classes. The district not having the arts is why I became a board member, and I'm really pleased with everything in this package, from funding of fine arts, CTE, PE, social workers, counselors, you name it. This is a package that I think the voters will really get behind, and I'm really excited to vote yes for it tonight. My question to you, Mr. Hernandez, is you mentioned this is an all mail-in election and that you don't believe it will be consolidated on the city's November ballot. Can you explain a little bit about why that is?
So city elections and county elections, they're managed by two different jurisdictions. So the city election will run on its own. The city clerk will manage the election there for the city council candidates, whereas the county election is managed by Pima County Elections, the superintendent and the recorder together. They may have overlapping voting centers. It did happen during our bond election. But even though those were overlapping, everybody had to pay their own expenses. Now, could it happen? Yes. Ultimately, we made that request initially. I know in the 2023 election, we also said that it wouldn't be consolidated. We did make that request to the county. The county and the city just agreed that it was better off to not consolidate. There was an agreement to make sure that, hey, if city ballots ended up in county bins and vice versa, that those would be transmitted to each other's jurisdictions. So it's just a matter of whether there's willingness on the part of the city and then ultimately on the part of the county to consolidate those operations. But that's something that Pima County and the city of Tucson themselves would have to decide together. We can always make that request. All mail ballot elections in general are, especially in off-cycle years, they're cheaper. We don't have to have polling locations throughout the city. And you get more response. More people vote by mail now, obviously, than they ever have before, and so getting a ballot to everybody's mailbox who's eligible to have one would just make it less expensive.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. I'm just concerned that it might confuse the voters since there will be like two elections happening at once. That being said, can you explain like the strategy that we have planned as far as voter outreach? I know Ms. Luna Rose mentioned asking a staff to, do the work of going out and knocking on doors, and I'm sure many will, and I certainly will join them. However, what will our strategy be as far
So
as?
I'll let Dr. Trujillo mention that, but there are limitations to that.
Okay.
That's a question we probably can't answer because we're supposed to be once the vote happens, our role is relegated to just providing information to those, hint, hint, wink, wink, that may want to go out and knock on doors. But the district administration, we're able to do presentations on the need, provide information about why this is needed, similar to what we did tonight, talk about average teacher salary, talk about teacher vacancies. We could talk about the high caseloads for counselors. So it would be in that capacity that we would be out supporting the effort.
Okay, so that will be handled by an outside agency?
Similar to what the 23 bond campaign, there would be an outside campaign committee that would support the effort independent of the district's administration. But that wouldn't stop us from providing them information upon their request for information related to that effort.
I see. Thank you for clarifying. And then last, I believe it was you who mentioned that things are different with this from the bond. That would we, I guess, would we need to have like an oversight committee? That's certainly something that I would pursue, but can you speak more to that?
So the only reason an oversight committee isn't necessarily something that we would recommend is because there aren't any necessarily approval of expenses. When you approve the budget as a board, you're going to approve the override expenses, and those are done. So we are going to track those and report those to you. There's really nothing to change. Unlike the bond program, they're looking at projects, they're evaluating scopes of work, they're making sure that everything fits within the bond proposal. There are limitations for how we can use bond and statute. Overrides, basically, you're allowed to use them for any override purpose. Now, the board sets what those categories are, those ones that were presented by Dr. Trujillo and the team. And so we want to make sure that we track those and we provide you a reporting process to give you that information and give the community that information. An oversight committee, like similar to like the audit committee who can ask those questions and review that might be one way of doing it to make sure like, hey, are we following kind of what we set ourselves out to do? But other than approving expenses, otherwise it will slow down the process, right? Like anytime we want to do anything like, hire, what are those going to be, those 14 new schools? We wouldn't be able to do any of that until a committee approves and reviews all of that stuff. If that's the direction the board wants to pursue, it would just be another layer that we'd have to account for as we kind of implement the override going forward.
Okay, well, I say that because if we're asking people to vote on an override that is on the backs of needing to pay teachers more and have art and music and PE at every school, I want to make sure that we're following through with that. And like 2 years down the line, if we're in a budget crunch, we don't say, oh, board, like we're going to have to eliminate our PE teachers so that we can fund this separate item.
Yeah, and I think that was the intent of creating a budget report and then an annual financial report to give you and the community the ability to see like, these are the activities, these are the departments, and these are the dollars. And you can see kind of how they're flowing or maybe how they're not flowing. One of the limitations that isn't in an override like it is in the bond is you can kind of pivot. If you decide that, hey, maybe we don't need 14 school FTE or 14 positions for fine arts, but you want more PE teachers, that's something that the board could do, or that's something that can be done. Whereas with the bond, you can't move in terms of the overall categories that the community approved. So there are different ways that we can kind of skin the cat in terms of the accountability and the transparency for sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Romero.
So when's the last time TUSD went out for an override?
2009.
And how did we do?
60-40 no.
Okay, and any time before that?
Before that, I couldn't tell you. It was the 1990s before this school district had an override, a successful override.
Okay, and yes, I know times have changed since that time. Now, on this override, basically this would be a Band-Aid, as you kind of said, it goes for 7 years, but we really need to redo this every 4 to 5 years if we wanted to maintain that.
Yes.
Because if we didn't maintain it, then basically all those, then we have to cut all those things back down unless we have fixed our budget internally. Is that correct?
Yeah, you'd have to prioritize essentially what stays and what goes at that point.
Okay, so this isn't just well, I guess it's like I said, a Band-Aid, but this is kind of like a permanent thing we're asking the voters to do, because if you want to maintain these things throughout, we can't just have it after the first one. It's going to have to continue and continue and continue on. So I understand all the great things that it's going to accomplish. I don't have the same optimism as my colleagues have up over here, because I have been getting some feedback from different individuals that have emailed regarding this. One of the things is, why are we always asking the public to bail us out of our financial problems? We had to do it with the bond. And, being financially responsible on some of these things, I think a lot of people are watching, and how is TUSD going to show me that it's worth my vote to support this? Let's look at the bond. How are they doing that? Some of the issues that I also see is our bond oversight committee is not having priorities in like the safety and the security and of our campuses and schools, whereas like we're coming up a little bit later on, we're going to talk about football fields at 2 of our high schools, but you have some of our inner city schools that don't have working plumbing in their locker rooms or showers and bad facilities. But those aren't priorities. We're looking at the glitter on the outside, new lights around the football field, new turf. What are we doing on our bond that is being responsible? We're going to ask them to go on out. So these are some things that I've had concerns from the public come out of me. They don't think we have our priorities straight when it comes to how we're doing our bond projects. And then other things too, like I was at a school that listened for bleachers. They don't need bleachers. They have more needs somewhere else at their schools. Are we throwing good money away at bad projects? And I think the public is going to be watching that, and I don't hate to air our dirty laundry, but we do have it. So if this is going to be successful, we're going to have to show it based on our bond financial responsibility. And I know spending $100 million on electric buses also isn't, going in the right priority as far as people building trust that are going to want to vote for this yes.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. I think us as a board, we have been able to vote on bond priorities, and I think we should keep the bond and the override separate. We have done a good job prioritizing our bond, and we are taking into account what principals need at each school. But for the override, unfortunately, our state government is not coming to save us or our public schools. It's time for TUSD and our community to invest in ourselves. It's time for TUSD to expand programs that are meaningful for our students. It is time to provide a meaningful salary to our teachers and to our school staff. And it is time to provide a meaningful salary to all of our employees. And we are going to do this with our budget override. We need to invest in TUSD. We need to invest into our community. And only we can do that, because we will not be saved by the state, unfortunately. And so I think it is time to do this now. I think the public does have trust in us. This is my 3rd year on the board, and I am proud to say that we have made some meaningful changes. And the bond is one way to show how we have continued to make those changes. So thank you to TEA
for all the work that you have done helping with this proposal. Thank you to staff for all the hours of work that you put into creating this proposal. I really appreciate all of the hard work that has been put into this. Yes, Dr. Shaw.
Thank you, President Ekstrom, and thank you, Mr. Romero, for addressing some of the concerns. I know we can sometimes be in an echo chamber, and we know that not everyone's going to be voting in favor of this. But I do want to address that in a few, as we talk about how we are going to be cutting administrative spending, 6% across the board admin, cutting departmental spending, cutting away from the classroom as much as possible to make sure that we are living within our means, that we are addressing the enrollment loss that we have. But it's different living within our means when it comes to enrollment than trying to address the state budget cuts. When inflation is 8% and the state budget only goes up 1 or 2%, it's not living in our means to cut our budget 6% every year like the state's forcing us to do. We were lucky to have the COVID relief ESSER funding for many years, and we were lucky to find many ways, very creative ways, using different sources of funding, whether it's Medicaid funding, whether it's our DSEG funding, whether it's Title I funding, as well as our M&O funding, to keep as many positions as we could from ESSER that really impacted our students. Our letter grades are better now than they were at any time since we started doing letter grades for our schools. And so that being said, we are addressing the state budget cuts. We're asking the voters to please help us as a district keep programs and services that are meaningful for our 40,000 students in our region, develop workforce development, have early child education, things that parents and families and employers and businesses need for our region to be successful. And I implore you to vote in favor of this. You just mentioned at your at our board reports about all the schools you visited. You have visited more schools in the last 6 months than I have in my 5 years on the governing board. And I give you props and kudos for that. And going to these schools, you hear from the teachers, you know we need to pay them better, we know we need to keep these programs, we know we need to have them have the PLCs in time that they can meet, and they can do that when we have a PE teacher, we can do that when we have art and music teachers. They can collaborate better as a group, and you hear that more than I do from all these schools. So you know the need exists more than any of us because you've gone to these schools more than probably all of us combined. And so I implore you to vote in favor of this, support the teachers and staff, support our 40,000 kids, and let's get this across the finish line.
Yes, Mr. Romero.
So, again, I'm speaking from an angle of people that have reached out to me regarding this. Would I love to see everything Dr. Trujillo put out here and all the programs that it'll affect and do? Yes. I'm not against what we're looking to do as far as this goes. I just know we still have to do the other work of fixing our budget so we can live within our means and not have to have the public bail us out again or go for another, later on, we still need more bond projects done and try to do something like that. I want to make sure that they see we're doing our due diligence on here, fixing the budget so we can live within our means. I want all these great programs for our schools because you are right, we're in need of a lot of help. But then again, that goes to certain things like we need to focus on, the absenteeism, getting students in the seats, getting them across that finish line for graduation. We're, building up our membership in our schools as well. So there's a lot of things we need to do. Again, like I said, I personally am for everything that you guys, principals, or the teachers need this. And we are losing good quality candidates. And I hear that from principals all the time because we don't have that pay. So the only reason I was mentioning it is all eyes are going to be on us on this to make sure we're still doing our job and not just saying, phew, the public got us out of this one. We need to still do the hard work.
Dr. Shaw?
And I agree, and I think it's not great characterization saying we're asking the voters to bail us out. We're not asking the voters to bail us out. We're doing that work ourselves. What we're asking the voters to do is make up for the state budget that is devaluing public education. We need to make sure we continue these programs and services that our state legislatures and our governor just haven't been able to pay for or willing to pay for decades, and they're starving public education, and it's time that our students deserve better. It's time that we do what we can do to make sure we do what the state isn't doing. And with that said, I'm going to move the item.
I'll second. The item has been moved by Dr. Shaw and seconded by myself. Roll call, please.
I, at this point, again, personally in favor, but I am going to have to abstain from this vote, please.
Dr. Robbie?
Yes.
Ms. Luna Rose? Yes. Ms. Shaw?
Yes.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Yes, motion passes 4-0 and with one abstention. Thank you. Next is item 9.1, TUSD Community Health Care Worker and Substance Misuse Reduction Initiative Update. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, I want to thank our Director for Social Emotional Learning, Julie Shivananda, who's been patient. I know this has been on the docket. It's important, but we've just kind of been stacked with agendas. But how we're spending the settlement dollars from the recent litigation, from the class action lawsuit against Jewel, and how we've put those dollars to work for our kids. That's important. So I'm going to turn it over to you. I'd like to welcome Noel Valle. I remember working with you when you were with the county, so it's good to see you working with us in the Aspire program. Welcome back. I'll turn it over to you, Julie.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Dr. Trujillo, board members. Thank you for the opportunity. As Dr. Trujillo said, I do have Noel Valle with me this evening, program manager for our new substance abuse prevention, intervention, and resilience education program, also known as Aspire. And so I just wanted to take a moment to just honor the work that this team has already done. And so our leadership came on board in November of this school year and just absolutely hit the ground running. And so in this time, we have hired our program manager, our program coordinator, and 5 community health workers, 1 per region, to be able to support the prevention and the intervention work at all of our schools. And so we are here tonight to just provide you a brief update. And then we will also be back in June to talk a little bit more about some staffing supports. So with that, I'll turn it on over to Noel Valle to walk you through all the amazing work that has occurred thus far.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me, giving me the opportunity to present this evening. If we can go to the next slide, please. So the program is comprised of 5 community health workers that are based regionally. And their work is to basically provide intervention supports to those high-risk youth that are misusing substances within those regions. There are also work as liaisons with community members, both and agencies, to provide those supports to students, and also to incorporate many of the supports that are available here through TUSD within the different departments that support student wellness. So these are the 5 positions or 5 workers that we have in the different regions. Incidentally, in the Arcadia region, we just hired that individual. So they are starting next week. They will be trained this summer, and they will also be shadowing their various staff members in their role, and that way when the school starts in August, they'll be ready to go. So I'd like to give you some updated information because we have been pushed back a few times. Our community health workers have provided 197 one-on-one interventions where they meet with the high-risk students who are misusing substances. They also meet with their families to discuss the opportunity to link them to care in the community for not only substance abuse but behavioral health or any other issue that the family or that student may be facing. We have also, as you can see here, the student presentations has also increased to 114, and these all take place from January of this year to April 30th. So that's amazing, that the work that my team has done. There has been 2,729 students that have been served prevention presentations at all grades levels, elementary, middle school, and high school. And the parenting has more than doubled to 689 parents that have received substance misuse information regarding prevention work and also social media awareness, how youth are accessing illegal substances through the internet. So these are our, since we started in January, these are our current community collaborations that we have, both on the intervention, prevention, and prevention fronts. And all of these are ongoing. These are increasing as we speak. And again, the next slide will demonstrate that. the accomplishments that we have done. These are three that I'm very proud of, my team has done. We've established a MOU with the Pima County Health Department and their program that is internally there, the Project Rewind program, that provides short-term intervention counseling sessions for students. Those are 5 one-hour sessions with students that are wanting and needing substance misuse intervention services, along with a 2-hour parent component. So that has been formalized as of March of this year, and so they have been, our staff, along with other support staff within our department, have been providing those referrals for those students. The second memorandum is with the Arizona Air National Guard. They are a great collaborator, and they provide a lot of factual and evidence-based substance prevention information, and they are one of the partners that we rely on to provide those presentations within the schools. Also, because we are at 88 schools, we have reached out, and that number is incorrect because we've now increased that to 36 schools in the last 6 months, that we are actively participating and providing resources and information to their students and staff. So this is one of the little flyers. Ours is much colorful, but this is just an example of what we use to disseminate to our partners here within the school district and outside partners for requests to be able to support our presentations. So this is something that we have distributed to all administrators here within our school district and to all the support staffs within each of their individual campuses. And again, our contact information there is listed to contact us. They can also reach out to our community health workers within their region to be able to schedule and access these resources for their students. So our next steps, we've already onboarded Arcadia Regional's community health worker. All of our community health workers have received a certification through Pima Community College, which is a pathway, which is very intensive, by the way. It requires over 400 hours of classroom education, along with 480 hours of ongoing community experience and works and trainings and whatnot. So they are in the process of receiving that certification through the Arizona Department of Health Services. So 5, including our coordinator, Diana Duran, who is not here this evening. She's out of the country, well-deserved rest. So all of them are in the process of and going to be receiving that through the Arizona Department of Health Services. And also, again, next month, we're going to ask for your guidance and permission to be able to allocate money that we already have, to reallocate that and move that over to hire a program specialist, which will benefit us in being able to provide more resources to our students and families, and also to assist us in data gathering to be able to solicit future funding to sustain this program in the future. Also, to provide another additional community health worker for the Santa Cruz region, because that region has the most students per region. We need to support that community health worker that's already in that region. And also to support half the salary, one of our fellow staff members within our department. And that concludes my presentation. Do you folks have any questions?
One thing, though, it was noticed on the slide too, but we are actively in the process of a request for proposal to identify a specific curriculum, both at the elementary, middle, and high school levels for ongoing prevention work. So that is a current RFP that is taking place, and then beginning next week, we do have a committee to evaluate all of those proposals that are coming in with the goal of starting the use of that curriculum in the fall.
Governing board members, any questions? Yes, Dr. Shaw.
Thank you, President Ekstrom, and Julie, Noel, thank you for being here tonight and presenting on this topic. I'm really excited about this. You know, we created this substance abuse task force a couple of years ago once we finalized the settlement agreement, and I'm really was excited then about what they had proposed with this program of community health workers. And this task force was made up of physicians, addiction medicine specialists, and others in our community that really helped us craft this this plan effectively and how to use I think it was like $9 million over like 10 years, the funding. And so this is not just like a one-time, like next year thing. We have funding for this for almost a decade to really address this long term. Because we know that when we address these public health issues, like just throwing some money at it for 1 year, like isn't going to cut it. And I'm really excited to see what this is going to mean for our community and our students over the next many years of addressing this from elementary school through to high school with the education and the curriculum that you mentioned, as well as then catching those kids that fall through the cracks and are using and try to provide some more intensive services and linkage to resources. So I'm really excited about this. Thank you for presenting. I'm excited about what this is going to mean and to come back, in the years ahead to kind of show us all this work. My question for the team is, like, how are you measuring success? Like, how do we know this program is working in the short and medium term and long term? Is it just from the numbers of students we reach out to, or is there other metrics that we have to really look at outcomes-based measures for our students in our community? Like, what are you looking at yourself when you're looking back at this program and seeing, like, yes, this is great, this is working?
One of the things that, because we're so new, sir, one of the things that I do want to do is do a query amongst, and looking at one of the identifying factors is you're going to see a reduction, and that is my goal, is to see a reduction in substance misuse violations overall throughout the district. That is one telltale sign. The other telltale sign that I want to look at is also being able to identify, again, for those students that unfortunately are addicted, to be able to get more of those students into care, and to be able to address that issue as well on that intervention piece. The other thing that I would like to do is also to identify, I know that there is a process of providing any interviews or any, but I think knowledge-based, if you're asking about knowledge, if they've learned anything, especially amongst the elementary age schools, because I think that's very important to start at a young age, and again, that curriculum is going to be broad-based amongst all grade levels. But I do need to develop some type of measurement model to see if they're actually learning information on that. So those are two metrics that I like to do.
And then as we look at more of a global perspective, we are collaborating with our multi-tiered system of support, MTSS, departments as well. And so we're creating a referral-based system within the MTSS system as well, so that we were ongoing tracking the number of students that may be on any sort of behavioral plans and really looking at, because we know that there's comorbidities, right? So oftentimes students are engaging in substances to potentially treat other symptoms. So that collaboration and looking at, so how are we also addressing it on a social and emotional level, looking at reducing the numbers, and then that data pumping back into the MTSS system, that early warning system, and really critically identifying and catching those students on a regular basis. So again, looking at the reduction in disciplinary instances, looking at the increased number of engagements with our community, bringing our parents and our community members involved, a lot more of those community outreach, and then obviously reducing the number of suspensions on top of what Mr. Baye already shared.
I'm looking forward for the data to come back to us in the years ahead. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Thank you. And thank you for your presentation. I kind of wanted to address the discipline issue. I know you said you're working with different departments. Are you working with student relations to help further this along? And is that just, I guess, how often? I mean, is it ongoing?
Yes, it is ongoing, ma'am, in the sense that we are working with Ana and Andrea and their team to identify those students through synergy. Also, administrators have reached out to us as well to assist their students that they've identified as high risk for substance misuse. So that process, those are ongoing meetings that we have with them. We have, through Synergy, the program that the district uses, we identify and look through those students that have recently been disciplined. Our community health workers actively reach out to those students and their families, and they also do check-ins. So there's not just a one and done, it's a follow-up to see how they're doing and if they need supports. We have been finding that as kids warm up, as students warm up to our staff, that they're more likely to engage in follow-up services out in the community.
Okay. And then are you helping to provide some funding support for that outside of what you have right now?
Can you clarify the question?
More, I guess, like in terms of student relations, I mean, I saw some of your, well, like budget reallocations. Is any, I realize that's for the program, but is any money coming to, or funding coming to help student relations just because there's a lot of work to do?
So we are on ongoing basis of evaluation, and so with this first year, we are doing a deep dive and analysis of the work that has been done thus far, and then also collaborating with other departments to identify where that need is. Ms. Warmbrand and I, and along with the team, are actively collaborating with Dr. Hewitt as well as Mr. Armenta, and we're looking at the larger scope, and we are there's a active MOU with another agency and provider and identifying what does that look like for getting students into care. And so of really that idea of wraparound services. Direct funding within student relations, not at this time, but again, we're continuously evaluating and analyzing the work. Thus, for the coming back in June to talk about expanding the staff within that larger reach. So trying to get to the 88 schools, realizing that is a very larger reach. But so one example of the collaboration with student relations and this department, one really great example is at the beginning of the year, we focused on Tucson High, and we looked at their kind of high risk list. And so between all of those, it was a concerted effort to reach out directly to all of the students and the families on that specific high risk list, and then navigating. So how are we then identifying what are the resources that are going to be happening on campus? What are the resources in the community? And so we're continuously kind of evaluating what that looks like in terms of the intervention, focusing also on all that list of community resources, where we're also not just looking at substance abuse, but again, the substance abuse can then also lead to other behavior. So again, looking at the ongoing analysis of data around discipline. So the aggression, the substance abuse, the social media use, the fighting, all of that, if it also has that component that could be alluded to with substances, providing that ongoing support with overarching behavior support plans and support with all of that staff.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you for your presentation. I want to echo Dr. Shaw in the need for data that supports our work, since this is an ongoing program. So my question is that of the 120 students that you've had one-on-one meetings with, how many of those students elected to receive services? I see in one of the slides you have current community collaborations. I also wonder, are some of these people from the task force, or are some of these agencies some of the organizations that we are referring students to in the resource list that we provide?
Some of these, yes, they are. To answer the second question, some of these members or some of the providers are part of that advisory task force that meet on a quarterly basis. Of these, and this is the big challenge, Ms. Shaw, is of those students, we've only had 11 that have engaged into follow-up care. I think, and again, reaching out to the parents, explaining our service, why we're meeting with their student this day. Some parents say, no, I do not want my student to receive these services, and we've also had some parents, to be very honest, where why is this being addressed? This was something that came up during the fall, and it's now February. Well, ma'am, our program is brand new, and so we're following up to just see if there is a need. So we've had that. A lot of parents are, I'm not saying that there's pushback, ma'am, but I don't believe they understand what the severity is. And again, that's explained. Your son or daughter has been disciplined, and they are at 10 days of suspension or more. And again, with time, I believe that is one area that I definitely want to see is more young people being engaged into services, because there is a need. Obviously, they have a high number of days of suspension.
And of those 11, what were the services that they decided to pursue?
9 of them were substance abuse related and 2 were behavioral health.
Okay, great. I would see that both a reduction in like substance use and also an increase in engagement, attendance, and academics would show us that, you know, this program is successful. So I do urge you, if you're able to, per like FERPA and all of that, track some of that data for any student that you engage with, especially like the one-on-one sessions, that would help support some of these efforts as we move forward. I also know that the county and the city are collaborating on like the opioid settlement money, and I believe a good portion of that is allocated for youth prevention, and so that's still in the works also, and so I'm not sure if we can partner with some of those agencies so that we can provide services and resources outside of what we may be doing already for students who really need it. Have you explored doing some sort of incentivizing of students who may like chronically be abusing a substance? You know, if they, I don't know if there's any programs where if they were to like drug test every week and they test negative, they would receive like a stipend or like some sort of incentive to stay clean. Is that something that is allowable with the funds? Maybe that's a Mr. Ross question.
Good evening. In terms of the funds that were received from the Jewel settlement, there aren't restrictions. I'd have to think about whether there might be other concerns with a program like that legally, but as far as the funds are concerned, that wouldn't be a problem.
Okay, great. Yeah, because, you know, for some students who may be super far behind in academics, it might seem like, you know, something that's insurmountable to turn their life around and, you know, go from 1.0 GPA to like, you know, 3.0, 3.5 or beyond. And so for them to just have more incentive to, you know, get better and stay clean, I would love to explore that in the future.
Governing board members, any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is, we're going to go back up to consent agenda, items 6.2 through 6.8.
Yes, governing board members, President Ekstrom, we would like to recommend passage of the consent agenda as arranged, 6.2 to 6.8.
I'll move the item.
I'll second.
The item has been moved by Ms. Luna Rose and seconded by Dr. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Sorry.
Unless you have something.
Yes, I was trying to raise my hand before
Oh.
the motion passed. I had some questions on 6.2.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and take those questions now.
Yes, item 6.2, I'd like to welcome Julie Shivananda back up, our Character Strong supplemental curriculum for K-12.
So a couple questions real quick. So it doesn't look like this is a financial impact on the district, correct?
That is correct. So the finances, we applied for and received the mini grant from the Arizona Department of Education for the Character Education Grant. That is a matching grant, and so that will be matched by funds already in the SEL budget.
Okay, and then, so it looks like there's pilot schools, and then I was looking like in the quantity requested, there's school counselors used in 20 schools, so is that how many pilot schools we're using in this?
Yes, correct, 20 schools.
Okay, and out of this, did we get input from any of the principals at those schools regarding being part of this pilot program?
Do you want to talk about the survey?
Yeah, we sent out a survey to school counselors and had them talk with their principals before requesting to be a part of the pilots. And so, and then once we went through that list. We went and asked again, making sure that both the counselors and the principals were on board.
Okay, so they had to look through the curriculum prior to approving that.
Yes, and we also followed the 10-day supplemental curriculum process, so the curriculum was on public display for 10 days prior to coming to the board meeting tonight as well.
Fantastic. And what ideally is this going to accomplish?
So the goal we currently have, Character Strong, is our Tier 1 curriculum for all of our teachers and our staff for overall character education and focusing on our social emotional learning competencies. And then with the Tier 2, what we've identified is that we continue to have students that are struggling for in social capacities or struggling with their self-regulation strategies. And so this would be additional resources and supports for our school counselors, our MTSS facilitators, our community health workers, our interventionists to potentially pull small groups of students based on disciplinary data or based on data that is provided from teachers around the curricular areas that the Tier 2 curriculum provides. So focusing on anti-bullying curriculum, focusing on social skills groups, focusing on college and career readiness focus areas at the high school level as well. So just a little bit more of that intensive support for those specific students that the Tier 1 is not supporting overall.
Okay, and what are the metrics going to be to continue this into all the schools if that's the pilot is successful?
So currently for the Arizona Department of Ed, they were in mid-cycle and they had additional funding. And so we were awarded what's called the mini grant. And so then the goal is for the full grant, that cycle should open in the next school year to be able to apply to have additional funding to be able to support the expansion of the curriculum in all of our schools.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want to pull the item or are you okay? Okay.
Okay.
Motion has been made by Ms. Luna Rose and seconded by Dr. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Next is item 7.3, approval to procure goods and services for Q4 bond project priorities. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, I'd like to welcome the team back up to the podium. We've got Mr. Hernandez presenting some additional Q4 bond projects recommended by the Bond Oversight Committee.
Good evening, board members. I am not the lovely and talented Dr. Carter. She is unfortunately stuck in an airport. But I bring to you the project list for Q4. These projects were approved by the Bond Oversight Committee on May 15th. It consists of two big items. First is the installation of artificial turf starting at Pueblo and Sabino High School. So this was a request that we received from principals at high schools in regards to safety concerns around injuries and around the deteriorated state of the fields at our high schools, Pueblo and Sabino in particular. And so the Bond Oversight Committee took a look at these items, and they are recommending the best option. So the quotes that were provided with the agenda item have three options. They recommended the best option, which includes a cooling additive that cools the fields to approximately less than 100 degrees when wet. It will, the installation of the field turf meets or exceeds the district's climate action policy by reducing water consumption at these two campuses, and it will increase player safety with a consistent playing surface and overall low maintenance. It includes a maintenance package with these items throughout the 8-year warranty of the installation of these turfs. With the board agenda item, we included a memo to describe the funding strategy in order to accommodate not just Pueblo and Sabino to kick us off, but all the other high schools that are going to receive this benefit. In addition to this, the Bond Oversight Committee approved cybersecurity devices that are going to be part of the match for E-rate. So as you may be aware, the district is a beneficiary of E-rate funding, which provides support for network, infrastructure, internet, and other types of basically network components for the district to operate. E-rate currently pays 80% of the cost, and the district is required to pay the other 20%. This investment is our 20% match, $547,000. So all told, the Q4 project cost for these two items is $5.9 million, which includes a 20% contingency of just under just over $989,000. So at this point, we will take any of your questions.
Governing board members, any questions? Yes, Ms. Shaw.
Thanks for your presentation. I'm pleased that we're finally doing this for Pueblo. It's been a long time coming. One of the comments at the calls to the audience, though, raised a good point. Is there an issue with bacteria for artificial turf? And I'm just kind of doing some preliminary research and seeing that it does, need to be treated and cleaned periodically so that it is maintained. What are we doing currently for the artificial turf at, say, Tucson High? And what do we have planned to maintain all of the upcoming artificial turf at our schools?
I will have Damon Ballesteros answer that question specifically.
Yes, good evening, Governing Board. The question regarding the health safety, the type of infill is a sustainable product that is olive pits. So the olive pits that remain, they get crushed, and that's totally different than what you see in a normal infill, which is your rubber compound. And the rubber compounds are what really create a lot of the bacterial growth. And the way you address it is by the spraying and cleaning, basically watering that. The difference with the product that we're using now is because it's sustainable and the bond oversight approved the next step, which is the cooling additive. The cooling additive is also sustainable. They're coconut husks that are ground as part of the infill. So when you wet that combined with the Schmidt pad that's in the core construction of the field, that's what reduces the temperature by transevaporation. So the cleanliness part is standard maintenance and really just watering, and that's what's done at Tucson High. They do a maintenance program there at Tucson High with grading the field as well as collecting the debris with a magnetic device that when that field was installed, they have that equipment, is the same equipment that we're requesting be installed in these packages at each of these sites.
Wow, interesting. So olive seeds and coconut husks.
Yes.
Nice. Well, that's great to hear. And then as far as the water use, how much are we saving for water with artificial turfs?
So great question. So on average, you're looking at a savings anywhere between 45,000 gallons of water to 55,000 gallons of water. And that, again, depending on the sites, if they have reclaimed or it's running off a domestic, that price varies. So there's a big savings in just water, not only water consumption, but also the water costs associated with watering each of these sites. And the cost savings is anywhere between $65,000 to $80,000 per year.
Okay, so it's 45 to 55,000 gallons per year.
Gallons per year, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Ms. Luna Rose.
Hello, thank you. Ricky, I'm sorry, Ms. Hernandez. Can you, I know you just said it, but is the contingency, is that sort of like a, can you explain the contingency a little bit more?
So we add contingency to all of the bond projects just in the event that there are changes in pricing. Some of these quotes are time sensitive. And unfortunately, due to the nature and the volatility of the market around a lot of these products, the pricing may change. We try to lock these in as soon as you all approve them. So for example, if you approve this tonight, we will get a purchase order out tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, so that the price that's currently on the quote is locked in and we won't need to use contingency. but we want to make sure that we have access to it, because otherwise, if the price increases, we have to come back to you. That will further delay the implementation of the project.
So it's not necessarily like a down payment?
It's not a down payment, no, not
Okay.
at all.
Okay, I just want to make it sure. And so if I'm reading this correctly, it's about 2.2 for each school?
Correct.
Okay, all right. I want to echo Ms. Shaw. I think one of the very first school tours I did while I was on the school board was actually at Pueblo. And so Mr. Rothenhauser gave me a tour, and that was about 5 years ago. So I'm looking forward to seeing a new turf there. Thank you.
Mr. Romero and then Ms. Shaw.
So real quick on the maintenance aspect of it, 'cause I saw something on the list that talks about maintenance equipment. Is that what the schools are going to get, some maintenance equipment for these?
Yes, so part of the quote is that there will be equipment that is going to be purchased, it's going to be provided by the company so that our facilities team can provide, maintenance throughout the year. But then as part of the package that we receive, there will be biannual maintenance by the company itself that's going to provide in-depth, more in-depth maintenance to the fields, other than what our facilities staff is going to do with the equipment that's provided. So there's going to be kind of a two-layered of maintenance that's included as part of the quote and the purchase for these turf fields.
Okay. And then going back to kind of like, the proposed list over here, do we have a grand plan with all these projects kind of planned out throughout all these years where all these things are going to be laying on down?
We do have the majority of these planned out. As you may know, we recently surveyed principals because we've obviously now it's been about 3 years since we initially surveyed principals around projects that we had. A lot of those projects, or some of them, have now been picked up by other sources of funding where the bond is no longer going to be necessary for them. And so we've gone back out to principals to survey them. We've actually reissued that survey to them because some principals wanted to make sure that they took it, so that we can make sure that we're capturing some of these priorities that either may have been missed additionally or are no longer a priority. Kind of the bleacher example that you mentioned. We have principals in schools who have said, the priority 3 years ago was X, it is no longer that, it is now this, right? And so we want to make sure that we're focusing on those so that we can refocus our priorities. But yeah, there is a listing of all of these components, and we've established a timeline, as much as possible, a timeline that these will begin to roll out.
Okay, and I don't know if it's possible to at least have a chance to look at these, like we mentioned earlier, I do go to a lot of these schools and I do see some things, I know Frank must do this with every board member. First thing he does is takes them to the football field, because that's what he did with me on my first visit. So, but like I've gone to some schools where there's like a configuration where they don't have a office where you can go in through a gate and then you have to go so far down over here to get to the office. And I know some of these schools have listed that part of their bond was to reconfigure so that you have to enter in through the office. I just want to know where some of those projects are, because those are some of the safety issues that I've run across. Same thing like when we were talking about Project More, they didn't have a gate in front. Where was that on the priority list? And it's great, we all moved it up as a top priority. I just would like to see where those are, because again, the safety aspect, when I do visit each one of these schools, that's the first thing that goes through my head. How easy is it for me to get into the school, and how easy is it if it wasn't me, for someone else, bad to get into that?
Yeah.
'Cause I do take the safety.
Health and safety are always priorities for us. Those tend to be the projects that we take to the Bond Oversight Committee. I know they've made it a priority for themselves. Like I said, we have a listing. A lot of them have tentative dates, I will be honest with you, because we can't project capacity, right? We have to accommodate for vendor capacity. We also have to accommodate for availability of campuses, right? Some projects require either no kids on campus, or we have to reconfigure how those kids are going to be on campus. So it's a matter of making sure that there's a lot of planning elements and the capacity to do those, because if we were going to do, to your example, if we were going to reconfigure the egress into a campus, I mean, that is redirecting parents and kids and visitors to a different part of the campus. And so that is going to have to require not only planning on our part, but planning with the principal to make sure, hey, you know, the main entrance to this school is not going to be available for 3 to 4 months because we're reconfiguring. That kind of planning does take time, and I know that that can be frustrating for principals to think it's not happening. It's not that it may not be happening, it's just that there is a lot of kind of back of the house work that has to take place in order for us to kick off that project. The domestic water line improvement project, for example, at the 3 high schools, that has been a 6-month back of the house type work. In order to do, you know, Dr. Carter has been working with move managers, moving summer schools to different campuses, working with those staff members, you know, where are they gonna live temporarily in the month of June and July while their water is completely shut off at Tucson High, which is our largest campus. And so a lot of that work is, you know, a lot of planning behind the scenes before we really get to the bond oversight committee and to you all to really execute a project. When we come to you, it's because all of that stuff has already taken place. One of the biggest things we're focusing on, like I mentioned previously, is resurveying our principals to make sure that we're still focusing on what's important and investing where we can. Because unfortunately, the reality is we aren't going to be able to do 100% of what they would like us to do. But we will focus on those priorities, especially as the health and safety kind of rises to the top for the campuses and for the principals.
Thank you.
Ms. Shaw?
Thank you. How long will it take to install the turf at Pueblo and Sabino, and will those teams be ready for the upcoming season?
So our estimate is they will start as soon as next week. Particularly with Sabino, that campus is currently closed, so that one will go quicker because they're doing domestic water line improvements, so we can essentially piggyback on that project. But my understanding from these vendors is they will be done before the start of the school year. We've spoken to both principals at both high schools and the teams who will need to practice over the summer, football teams in particular. They will be able to accommodate themselves. I believe Sabino will may practice at Santa Rita, and then Pueblo will practice on a different practice field so that we can at least make sure that we accommodate these. But the understanding from the vendor is before the start of the school year and start for a really good football season.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Just one question. I believe we have asked for the projects and how they are configured. So I think we would like to see that as a board.
Yeah.
If there is no further discussion, I would like to move the item.
I'll second.
The item has been moved by myself and seconded by Ms. Luna Rose. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank
you. Congratulations, Pueblo.
Yeah. Next is item 7.4, Governing Board Policy IJND, Artificial Intelligence Use in Education, second reading.
Yeah, this is our second read. It's been out there for public comment for a while. We postponed it from our last meeting, but we're here with potentially what could be the district's first AI policy, pending board action tonight. I'd like to welcome back our Senior Director for Instructional Technology and Education, Tracy Rowley, as well as our Associate General Counsel, Mr. Michael Aronoff, to walk us through this item.
Thank you, and good evening, Governing Board. I'm just going to give a quick introduction, a reminder of sort of where we are in this policy development process. We were before the board a couple of meetings ago with, is it 3 meetings ago now, with what would have been the second read. The board took some action to make some modifications and have us bring it back, and so I do want to clarify the modifications requested were made. One of those modifications was to effectively make AI unavailable for students 13 and under, or under 13, but we've framed it as basically non-high school students. There is a version of the updated proposed policy that includes that adjustment. There is a different version, though, that is framed differently, does not create that restriction. That proposal comes after additional development that Ms. Rowley will talk you through, but that is the proposal that is being offered by the AI task force, and is I guess what the administration is asking the board to adopt, but the alternative is there for you as well, which aligns with what the board acted on at the last meeting. So we are back for a sort of second read. So we are, the board is appropriately postured for final action on this if the board chooses to take it tonight. And with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Rowley.
If we could just quickly run through the items as fast as you can, because we have one more item left before.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, President Ekstrom, governing board members, Dr. Trujillo, and all the people watching. My name is Tracy Rowley. I'm here tonight with Chris Anderson, Jules O'Haron, Robbie Hamadi, and Juve Lopez to speak about the proposed AI intelligence, or artificial intelligence policy for Tucson Unified. Well, I'm pushing the button, Maria. There we go. So I'm going to talk real quickly about the feedback we had from some of the focus groups, and then the breakdown of the revisions that we are proposing for you all today. Mexican American Student Services Department invited me to speak with their Parent Advisory Council about AI, which then gave me the opportunity to ask them about their opinions about AI. So some of the parents had used AI platforms. Some of them knew that their children were using a form of AI. They were very interested in understanding how their children would learn about the appropriate use of AI. And many of them expressed that their students should be taught how to use AI because they saw it as being something that would be important for them for college and career readiness to prepare them for their future. And then we cast a wide net and invited a representative sample of teachers for a focus group to talk about the use of AI in the classroom. We had solid conversations with the teachers who attended the focus group. And I spoke with many teachers in an informal setting and received a lot of emails, and I have provided summaries for you based on the feedback. AI is definitely improving, saving them time in their lesson plan and meeting requirements such as developing learning targets and differentiating lessons. They all agreed that more training was necessary and imperative. And then some thought that we need to train the teachers on how to work with students on how to identify AI, how to use it ethically and responsibly. They all felt that teachers and staff need to be trusted as professionals to use AI tools responsibly and to follow the proposed policies regarding vetting AI responses and not entering personal information into the AI platforms that they are using. I did provide some of the quotes, and I won't read through all of these, but for your own information, we've received many emails and all of the discussions, and so I added some quotes there just to give some texture for you all. So the teachers on the focus group provided some key suggestions which really helped us to bring out how AI can be used by all different ages of students. First, some AI platforms offer a potential for age-appropriate tools, creating engaging, tailored learning experiences for students of all ages. Some of the platforms that many teachers are interested in starting to use allow for the teachers to be able to monitor and supervise what the students are doing with the platform. And then third, they think that AI, if teachers are going to be using it, must link to state standards, must be included in the lesson planning, ensuring that it's integrated purposefully into the curriculum. And they did feel that it had the potential to enhance their instruction and cultivate valuable skills. So the focus group and the task force members curated this list of uses of AI by potentially all age groups of students. Some of these are already available, such as the AI Gemini powered searches in Google. One of the ones I'd like to highlight is the Microsoft Reading Coach, which assists students in developing their fluency skills. So the students provide a topic of interest, like unicorns playing soccer. Then the platform Reading Coach develops a story for them, and then the student reads the story to the AI platform, and it listens for their fluency and gives them tips and suggestions, and tells them if they're talking too fast, too slow, are they pronouncing things, how are they pronouncing it, and they've really helps with building that reading fluency and confidence. So that's just an example of one of the AI platforms that that Microsoft provides. Here's more, and again, I won't go through all of these because I know you have that for your own reference up there. So we have revised the AI policy based on your feedback by changing keywords, adding definitions, and then simplifying and condensing portions of the policy. So I'm coming to you with 2 drafts tonight, which I know is very unconventional. The first draft would restrict the use of AI platforms to high school students. The AI platforms could only be approved if they meet these specific guidelines. However, I do have to point out to you that because of how Google and Microsoft the AI tools have been infused into their platforms, that there is AI that is already available to our students, and the way that it is structured, and at this time, we cannot unblock it. So they have that access to those AI tools already in Microsoft Word and PowerPoint, and when they do Google searches, Google Docs, it's already there, it's embedded, and we can't unblock that at this time. So that would be, if we are just going to have it for AI students, it would be available. It have to be age appropriate. It aligns with all the with our standards. We could monitor it, and it would enhance the instruction and build critical skills, and then it would have to comply with data privacy. But the task force and focus group would like to offer an alternative that allows for the use of approved AI platforms with specific constraints in place. And we feel that including the caveat that only tools that are age appropriate for student use. So available AI platforms may be more open, more accessible to high school students, but more restrictive for our younger students, because with our network umbrella, security umbrella, we can restrict which tools are open for which groups of students. But what we would like to propose, the task force and the teachers, part of our focus group, is that we would make AI tools available if they met these criteria. They're age appropriate, they align with the standards, teachers in the district can monitor their use, and it has to enhance instruction and build critical skills, and then it complies with our data security. So this is in the second proposal for your consideration today. I'm going to skip over this. So in conclusion, I feel I must remind you that we do have AI guidelines. They are already in place. Many teachers are using them. They are much more detailed, have a lot more specific information. We developed this policy over a year ago, or the guidelines, I apologize, over a year ago, and we already have to go back and work on them because a lot of what was in the guidelines that we developed are already out of date because AI is changing every week, every month, something new is coming out. So we're going to have to revisit those guidelines and redo them, not redo them, but to adjust to all of the changes. But the proposed policy that we are bringing to you addresses the importance of using AI responsibly and ethically, understands the limitations, being aware of the potential for bias, the need to vet AI responsibly. But we feel like this policy is made to last through the years, although we cannot predict that because AI is changing so quickly. We don't even know what it's going to look like in 6 months or even in 2 months. But we just feel that having this policy will provide our students, our parents, our teachers, staff members, stakeholders, and constituents with a policy that aligns with our values and allows us to shape our own future. So I'm prepared to take any questions.
Governing board members, any questions? Ms. Luna Rose.
Turning it off. Thank you for the presentation. It's not necessarily a question, but just going over the policy review, I didn't really see anything that there was concerns, but not horribly negative concerns. Like I think everybody realizes that this is something that's not going to go away.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
And in fact, like in my work life, I mean, I use Canva just about once or twice a week. So, I mean, and that's what, that beside of hypocritical of
not allowing our students to be ready for the next step. So I appreciate the comments. I think it's a good balance of where we are.
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Ms. Shaw?
Thanks for your work on this. Gosh, I wish we weren't here having to do this. I feel like it's a slippery slope, and as you said, things are changing so rapidly that even within the year that you've been working on this, there have been modifications that have needed to be made. And so I'm going to have a hard time voting yes on this. I would much prefer to vote for something, a policy like this, which would prohibit the use of AI for our students, because although some may say it is here to stay, and they're probably right, I don't think that the use of AI is going to be helpful in a real way that is going to benefit the students' ability to be self-reliant in their own skills and creativity. That being said, I do appreciate the revisions that have been made. I don't think there's enough still regarding the oversight, because it's not really outlined, and it's kind of the person who's using it who has to do the oversight. I would prefer if the board would vote on the policy that has an age restriction. I think that is more appropriate. Yeah, so I don't know. What I've heard from you and others regarding that this policy and the use of AI in our district is not going to replace staff, but many of the uses of AI specifically for our teachers and for students who may need intervention, that is replacing staff, especially when a student is identified as needing help with reading, and then that program helps them with reading. Like, that's replacing a reading interventionist. And so, yeah, with that, I'm gonna vote no on this, because I just think we need to get back to basics, and if we just unleash everything and allow it, I'm just not sure when or where it will ever end. It's really easy to learn how to use AI in your personal life. There's like hundreds of programs, including Khan Academy, where students can figure out how to use AI on their own. The best way to learn something is to use it. And so I think most students have access to AI, and if they don't, well, maybe they'll be better for it, because they won't try to, see how a computer's version of their own writing could be improved than their own. I think it kind of breeds, you just don't trust yourself anymore, and you just don't think that your own words have the same weight. And yeah, with that, I'm gonna have to vote no on this. But I encourage my board to vote for the policy that has an age restriction, if you must.
Mr. Romero?
So one thing that stuck out, Mr. Ross, you had mentioned on this, again, I'm not really all in for it, but lack of any policy, we're still living like in the Wild West, correct?
Well, I would say that without any guidance from the board, then this will continue to grow with no boundaries whatsoever set by the board. So it's either have a policy that you try to corral and give some ethical guidance at the very least, or have no policy at all, and then no controls. So
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what resonated with me. Like I said, I don't think there's the best situation on this, but having that lack of any policy I think we could be looking at doing ourselves worse than not doing anything on it. I'm also for still the age restriction on it for high school and above. That was just my comment for not having anything at all. Thanks.
Any other questions or discussion, Ms. Shaw?
I agree. I do think we should have some sort of policy to corral the use of it. I know, well, maybe you can clarify if we're already banning the use of generative AI through our devices and our Wi-Fi.
It depends on what platform. So we are banning things like ChatGPT. Canvas, Ms. Lena Rose referred to, that's one that our teachers are asking for because it has an AI component to it. We are banning that component. Teachers are begging for that for their kids because they can do all kinds of really cool graphic design things with that. But when it comes to the generative AI that's already infused into the Google platforms and into Microsoft, we are not able to block it, and kids are using it now because we can't turn it off at this time.
You can't turn off the search in Google that kind of prevents AI, because I can do that on my normal browser at home that kind of has that stuff at the top. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's the generative AI that's built into, say, Google Sheets, Google Slides, Google Docs. But right now, students are using Google to say they want to look up the climate of France, and they're getting those AI overviews. We are not blocking that.
I see. All right, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Romero.
One more thing, and maybe Mr. Ross, you can help guide on this. Since it's changed since we first got started here, is there something we can put in here that this policy is up for an annual review?
The board could certainly do that.
Would the board consider that with the many changes that Tracy has mentioned here today to make sure that we don't let this policy just kind of go and we keep this in check?
I'm fine with that. Ms. Shaw?
Thank you. I'm fine with that too. I think it's definitely warranted. Is there anything about plagiarism in this policy, in the use of AI?
Yes, it's what's written into it is that teachers must teachers give students the guidelines for an assignment. What can you use AI? How much? What we'd really like to do is that many other schools are doing like a red, yellow, green kind of stoplight if you can use it or you can't. So having that so teachers would let the kids know when they could be using AI as part of that assignment. And a lot of teachers are already asking for that, to have that ability to use that. So depending on what the teacher has picked, that's how much the student could use AI. That being said, yes, if plagiarism, it would still be counted as a code 2 under the student code of conduct. It would still be, it could still be, the code of conduct could be interpreted to cover AI. But so it just depends again on the assignment, but the teacher outlines. But the default, it says in the policy, is the default is if the teacher doesn't say that AI or not doesn't say anything, it's no AI.
Okay.
I hope, does that answer your question?
Well, I'm looking up the word plagiarism in the policy. I don't see it, but maybe I spelled it wrong. But I don't think I did. So I'm just, I know we have policy codes at the bottom, but if we don't, I don't know, outline something specifically in the policy, like if the word plagiarism is not within this, and from what you said, teachers have some sort of guideline with like a yellow, red, or green, that maybe students have access to submit their work and see how much is plagiarized or generated through AI, or maybe it's the teachers who are doing that. But either way, I think all work should be original, because then it would be not plagiarized. Can you talk more about that?
I can. So I don't recall, without the whole policy right in front of me, and I'm not sure that we call out plagiarism specifically, but plagiarism is a code of conduct violation, and it's defined in the code of conduct, and we do clarify in the policy that code of conduct violations using AI will continue to be code of conduct violations. So it's, we included that language specifically so that there wasn't any confusion about, well, this is stealing from AI, so does that make it different? No, it's still code of conduct, plagiarism, and a violation of that part of the code. I think partly we didn't call out plagiarism because, you can have other code violations that are also, tied in with that. So we didn't want to limit it and restrict it in that way. We just wanted to be very clear that when you're using AI, this isn't different. It's still something the code would apply to as it would anything else for student conduct in the district.
Yeah, it seems like it's more allowable if it's generated with the help of AI than like if you're searching on Google and you just copy and paste a statement of a fact that you may be looking for. So I just think, I know a policy is needed for the use of AI in our district. I'm just not sure if this policy is ready yet for adoption. Like, I do want it to come back in a year to see how it's going. But I just don't think there's enough direction.
We could add something that says plagiarism. That way we can at least have something in place, if that's something that the board is wanting to do. Yes, Dr. Shaw.
Well, don't we have plenty of policies about plagiarism already? Like, do we need to be redundant because we have whether it comes from an AI generated source or whether you're just copying from a paper book?
I just think to move this along and to build consensus for this, I think it's something that we could add, and it's not, if it is redundant, then so be it, but if it makes board members more comfortable to be able to vote on this, then I think that's something that we could do.
Thank you. I certainly do think it is needed in this policy, whether or not it's within our student code of conduct. Like, this is one of the main purposes of using AI is because it improves your writing and it makes cool images, and all of that is kind of work that should be done by the student through trial and error.
So what are the wishes of the governing board? How do you want to move forward?
I would support the one with the age restriction for high school and just implement something along the lines of, revisit this policy on a yearly type of basis. And I wouldn't mind if we just threw in, like you said, the word plagiarism in there just to make it an extra point of that in that policy.
I'll second.
Could I interrupt? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Ross was kind enough to point out with his handy laptop that it's plagiarized is the word, so maybe that's why it didn't show up, but it is in the policy already.
Okay.
What section, Mr. Ross?
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
I didn't even try to spell it. I was just scanning. It is in the student regulations for student use, and it is in paragraph 4. Digital citizenship education shall include AI literacy and data privacy awareness. AI literacy is defined as the knowledge. Oh, that's the wrong one. Where was it?
Yeah.
I just showed it to you. Oh, here it is. It's in 3. It's in paragraph 3. I'm sorry. Students are prohibited from using AI tools in a manner that violates the district student code of conduct, including using AI to plagiarize, cheat, or fabricate work.
Okay. Thank you for pointing that out. I still don't see it. Is it in the definitions, or can you scroll down? Like, I appreciate
Very
you
top of
reading it
page
to
3.
me.
Yeah, it's
Very
like-
top of page 3 for both policies.
I'm on the new alternative.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
no
pretty
age restriction.
disappointed that
The no
Mr.
age
Ross had to
restriction,
find
right.
that.
I know. Me too. Right on. Well, I'm happy that that's within this policy. There are still some reservations I have as far as oversight and just the use in general. It's a slippery slope, and it's just far too easy to become reliant on the use of artificial intelligence to do what needs to be done by the student.
Sorry,
Yes, go ahead.
because I'm talking out loud. Mr. Romero, I'm sorry, since we did find the plagiarized section,
Yes.
what kind of wording did you want?
Just add, we review this policy every year.
Okay, so can we add that perhaps, like the last sentence of the scope, that this policy may be reviewed every year? Would that be okay? Is that okay with you?
Yep, that'd be great.
Okay.
So do you want to withdraw your motion and make a new motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to pass the policy regarding available for high school students only. Just add the caveat that the board looks over this on an annual basis.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Romero, seconded by Dr. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Or AI.
It's kind of late. I like that. Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1. Thank you. Next is 9.2, fiscal year 2026 budget study session. How much of a study session will we be having today?
It depends on how many questions you ask.
It's very abbreviated.
It's
But
very-
really what this is this is sort of a last glimpse before your adopted budget comes at you on June 10th. This is probably not going to be really any new information, but we wanted to make sure that we gave the board a good look at the upcoming proposed budget on June 10th, which for those watching in the public, we do have to put a proposed budget in front of the board where they vote to adopt. Then it has to be available for public comment for 30 days. The board then comes back in its first meeting in July, and then you vote on an adopted budget. Both instances for the proposed and the adopted, it has to be opened up for public hearing. So this is sort of that final last study session before we do the formal proposed on June 10th. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you. With one caveat, the legislature is on vacation, so there probably won't be a final budget from the state by June 10th. With that, we will start. So just an update on the hiring freeze and the position closures. So if you recall, the hiring freeze, we had a goal of $5.3 million in total salary and benefit savings in M&O, which included DSEG and the indirect cost fund. As you can see, as of the end of last week, we were at $3.2 million in total savings. This has a lot to do with the fact that we have released some positions for hiring prior to the end of the fiscal year. So we have, I provided some examples: custodians, locksmiths, some crossing guards, and obviously the internal auditor. Those are just an example of some of the positions that are urgently necessary to be hired before the fiscal year ends, which obviously is cutting into some of that, not to the tune of almost $1 million, but certainly it has reduced the amount of savings. Nevertheless, about 2/3 of that savings will be added to our budget balance carry forward at the end of the fiscal year. Just as a reminder, DSEC does not have a carry forward provision. The position closures that you all approved on April 29th, those will be, we will realize the savings for those. Those positions were immediately closed the next day. They are not budgeted in FY26, and so we are expecting a full year's $3.7 million in personnel savings for fiscal year 26. So those will just not be expenses that we will have going into next fiscal year. Quickly, an M&O budget update. So departments have submitted their budgets. Right now, we are looking at a total of $318 million. Just for some perspective, the current non-DSEG M&O budgets are currently $338 million. So we're looking at about a $20 million reduction in operating expenses. That has a lot to do with not just cutting, but with the fact that we obviously lost students, and so there is reduction of FTEs at schools because of the loss of enrollment. Overall, we are estimating about a $381.4 million fiscal year 26 budget. That is about $20 million less than where we are today. If you recall, our M&O adopted budget right now is over $400 million. So through June 30th, including DSEG, we're expecting about $380 million in expenses. Now, based on the projection that I had put together back in the month of March, we were expecting about a $22 million carry forward. That is now $3.2 million less. And that has to do with the fact that desegregation is going to be over its budget limit. And so that budget limit obviously has to be absorbed by the non-DSEG side of M&O, and so that will eat into our carry forward projection. However, as you know, as kind of was a discussion earlier, fiscal year 26 will be the last fiscal year of a positive budget balance carry forward. So for fiscal year 27, we will need a permanent reduction of at least $13 million to end the fiscal year without a negative balance, which is legally required. So we will need to start actually taking some action to cut into that $13 million with or without an override. Those are mutually exclusive. An override is not the bailout. You know, we still need to do the work. The override will just simply buy us some time. Continuing on the M&O budget, so if you recall, departments were asked to do cuts anywhere between 3% or 6%, with the exception of 3 departments. So the goal for the reduction was $3.4 million. Departments achieved $2.1 million in reductions. We had 10 departments who had a reduction that was required of just over $255,000, but they're actually increasing their budgets by $639,000. You can see in the red boxes to the lower left, some of the largest ones, fine arts being at the top of the list in their largest increases. Now, the remaining 25 departments who had a combined reduction of $2.7 million, they achieved their goal. So they met the $2.7 million reduction. You can see the 3 departments on the lower right side that had the 3 largest reductions. That's $1.5 million came from those 3 departments alone. So our departments definitely did a good lift in terms of trying to achieve a reduction overall in M&O. Going into DSEG, by the end of fiscal year 25, we are expecting that the DSEG budget will exceed its statutory limit by $4.6 million. So we will need to accommodate $4.6 million. Now, we may be able to realize that number may decrease because we still haven't finished our fiscal year, so there may be expenses that are out there that may not have to be realized. So that number is still in flux. As of today, it's $4.6 million. Now, we implemented a zero-based budgeting approach where we asked departments to decrease their expenditures by 10%. The presentations that you were given over the course of the last 3 months, departments provided budgets to you that only showed a 3% reduction or $1.6 million across those departments. So we reviewed every department, looked at every position, and found an additional $1.3 million in identified reductions within DSEG. Additionally, we're implementing two strategies to help offset some of those expenses. One, teachers that currently are paid supplemental base, if they're not funded by DSEG or by Title I, if they're funded just by M&O, Classroom Site Fund picks up their supplemental base pay. If you're a DSEG funded teacher, DSEG picks up that cost. So we're moving half of that expense off of DSEG and into Classroom Site Fund for the 25-26 fiscal year. Also, we are not going to move forward with any reductions in CRPI in the Multicultural Curriculum Department and Student Relations Departments. And we're doing that by absorbing 5 fine arts integration specialists into the Classroom Site Fund and out of DSEG. So essentially, we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, but we're offsetting expenses in order to make sure that happens. We're moving other expenses out of Classroom Site Fund, so that is also not losing money in that fund by moving these fine arts positions into the Classroom Site Fund. So overall, the projected budget right now is $65.6 million. So it will exceed the limit by $1.9 million. Now, I will say that this is $2.6 million less than what we're projecting in expenditures. So even though this exceeds the budget limit, departments did reduce over $2.6 million in expenditures compared to fiscal year 25. But the largest contributing factor here is the cost of staff, right? We require every department to budget a salary increase. If it doesn't happen, then it adds to, it's just gravy, if you want to call it the technical term. But it just adds to the heap. but we want departments to plan for it because otherwise they're scrambling in the middle of the fiscal year. There is an increased cost to benefits. Benefits will go from 30% to 32%. That is a significant amount of money when you take a look at the amount of staffing that we got. But nevertheless, some departments are still not going to see a year-over-year reduction. One of the biggest ones is the language acquisition department. Fiscal year 25 budget is just under 13.8 million. They're going to have a budget of over $14 million next fiscal year. So they're still going to see an increase year over year, even after we reduced some of their expenses, along with other departments that are listed there. This is just a small example of some of the departments that, even with some reductions, CRPI, multicultural curriculum notwithstanding, are still going to see an increase in their budget. So in sum, I mean, just highlighting the hiring freeze and the position reduction, we've achieved $7 million in personnel cuts. You know, turnover and attrition, you know, will add to position savings. So as other positions are not filled that are not part of this freeze, they will add to that $7 million. We've reduced expenditures by $2.7 million from $4.6 million. So we've essentially cut our over expenditure by half going into next fiscal year. The M&O budget has also reduced expenditures by $2.1 million. So all told, departments and schools altogether have reduced operating expenses for this district going into 26 by nearly $12 million, or that's 3% of our current M&O budget. And when I say school reductions, again, that is as it relates to enrollment. If your enrollment decreases, fewer teachers, therefore fewer expenses for staffing and other expenses. But by and large, these reductions came from central departments to the tune of almost $12 million. That is, in my book, still a success. We still managed to cut out a lot of funding, and I really want to kind of extend my gratitude to our department leaders because we really put them up to a really difficult task over the last, 3 to 4 months to come up with this. But we've done a good job to do it. So with that, I will take any questions.
Governing board members, any questions? I have a question. So like language acquisition and like Mexican American Student Services, there is an increase to their budget because of staffing?
Yes,
Okay.
the cost of staffing.
Are they still able to like purchase materials? They have money for that?
They still have money for the non-personnel stuff, travel, conference registrations, district supplies, instructional aids. So they still have funding for all the general stuff that they currently do. Particularly in language acquisition, there were some reductions in the spending level for some of those things, but those categories still exist.
Okay. Yes.
And as far as the, trying to look, I know, I don't see it on this slide, but wasn't there a decrease for transportation?
There was a decrease for transportation. However, the reason for the increase is they were under budgeted for fiscal year 25. So the funding capacity that we've allocated for DSEG to that department is not sufficient for them to cover their current operations. So we actually have to provide them a $1.3 million increase to their budget in order to just pay what they're currently doing. So they're not expanding their services. This is just to pay for the people that they currently have. In fact, they were one of the largest contributors in terms of the hiring freeze and the position reduction for fiscal year 26. But even then, this has a lot to do with the fact that we've significantly grown the cost of salaries for our transportation department.
Okay, because I know like we've eliminated some vacant positions, and I'm still hopeful that will increase our ridership in this next school year. And so I'm just wondering how we're gonna do that. Like, it hasn't been brought to us as far as the strategy to do that, but if we're decreasing the vacant positions and still needing to add to their budget to account for the salary or wage increases, I don't know. I hope it's feasible.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Future meeting dates and agenda items, Dr. Trujillo?
June 10th, we're back at it. 3 big items of note. I mentioned proposed budget for both maintenance and operations and desegregation. That will be the board's consideration of a proposed budget. It'll be open for public hearing. We'll also have our annual code of conduct recommendations from the Student Behavior Management Committee. Every year, they do propose touch-ups, revisions, and modifications to student code of conduct. And we've had a couple of board members ask that the dress code return. That will be returning next week, looking at governing board policy JICA for the dress code for any ideas on revisions there as well. And then, of course, we will work in the extended service provider item in terms of an examination, although we'll probably need some direction from the board in terms of negotiated items versus items that we would be discussing out here publicly. We'll certainly touch base with board leadership to get ready for that event. So we meet the needs of the request of our employees, but then also honor our agreement with TEA. So I'll work with board leadership on that. So we're going to be busy on June 10th.
Great. If there's no further business, this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry.